Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call back to order the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners meeting for February 18, 2020. And I'd like to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones. Now we will proceed with public hearing agenda, starting with item P1 of ordinances. Madam Clerk, do we have proof?
We do. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times on November 29th, 2019.
Good afternoon, Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. Item P1 is PDD 20-0207 for large-scale comprehensive plan amendment. This item is continuance, request for continuance to April 7th, 2020 BCC meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue time certain.
Second. Is it a roll call vote or doesn't matter? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Following item is item P2.
Item P2 was published in the Tampa Bay Times December 27th, 2019, and by affidavit and site postings.
Okay, I'm going to read the ordinance title. Today, there's no action by the board required. This is the first of two public hearings, and the second hearing will be held on, which is the adoption hearing, will be held on April 7th, 2020 at 1:30 in Dade City. This is an ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners, amending the Pasco County Land Development Code, Section 602, J. Ben Harrell, Villages of Pasadena Hills Stewardship District, amending text and exhibits 602-A through 602-E, and as necessary for internal consistency, providing for applicability, repeal or severability, inclusion into Land Development Code, and an effective date. So these are some changes that are being proposed. The major revisions have to do with alternative transportation facilities, and they're now mandatory and creditable. There's also some changes for appointments to the Planning and Policy Committee. It replaces first 15 years by the first 25 years. It increases additional Villages of Pasadena Hills development and administrative fee for entitled properties from $200 per dwelling unit to $400 per dwelling. It authorizes the board to establish a mobility impact fee credit registry for owners of VOPH credits. Then there's also some minor clarifications that affect non-entitled properties. There's new thresholds and exemptions allowed. There are no changes to the number of entitlements, number of residential units, nor intensity of non-residential square footage. And this is set for adoption on April 7th, 2020. I believe Ernest Monaco is here to read a letter that was submitted to Commissioner Oakley's office. That was also provided to the clerk's office, and a couple of ex partes from Commissioner Oakley and Commissioner Moore. There was a letter of concern received, and it's already in the file with the clerk's office, but Ernie wanted to read it into record. Again, there's no action that will be taken by the board today on this item.
Thank you, Denise. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Glad to be back to see you guys. Okay, I'm going to quickly just summarize the letter. It's from Kenneth Lane. He's the owner of a parcel of land at 33011 Kiefer Road. It's about 35.21 acres. His neighbors Calvin and Linda Glassbrenner at 33001 Kiefer Road. Their parcel's 25 acres, and Marianne Skinner at 33129 Kiefer Road, and her parcel's 24.99 acres. I want to just really quickly give you the issue because we are in the midst of solving it as well, or at least working to solve it. Specifically, in the VOPH Master Roadway Plan, which is really is Exhibit E in the Stewardship Ordinance. There's roads that are shown there that have to be done over 50 years when development gets there. And he's very concerned, and as his neighbors are, and I'll read this part of it here, is since the VOPH is suggesting and showing a road, and it's Elam Road, running between Kiefer Road and Tyndale Road, if this road is allowed to be built as it is shown, it will come very close to the Skinner home, and then it will continue up the east side of our west property line with a right-of-way of 70 feet. It will require demolition of the Glassbrenner barn and well, my barn, and go right over my well. Furthermore, it will severely impact all of our homes as well as diminish the value of our beautiful homes and property. We are all contiguous property owners from Tyndale to Kiefer Roads, and our properties are all reached by private drives from Kiefer Road. This proposed Elam Road would not benefit any of us because of the wetlands to the east of the Glassbrenner property and the same to the north and east of the Skinner properties. The taking of this right-of-way will render these properties unusable in the future as far as trying to sell or develop. This proposed Elam Road right-of-way, while way not concerning any additional buffer will come within 20 feet of each one of our houses and will severely damage the value of our homes. In the case of the Glassbrander and Skinner, will render their lands worthless, not to mention the loss of our wells and barns. When I received this letter this morning, I contacted quickly Amir Jamali. He's our traffic engineer. I asked him to please do the research on this, find out what's going on here to make it very clear, and I will get back to these people after this meeting and when I get the information. And you guys have a copy already. Okay, thank you.
It's not spelled, it's not showing up.
That's the end of my presentation.
Okay,
If
any
there's
questions for
questions.
Denise? Well, this is a public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up to speak on P2. If you'd like to speak on P2, please come forward. Okay, seeing no one. There's no action to be taken, so we'll move on to procedures for rezonings. Mr. Steinsnyder?
There are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there's no opposition, the application will be considered by the board without further presentation. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there's opposition to the application, the applicant will be given 5 minutes for a presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual, or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or Planning Commission recommendation, or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning, may at this time request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is that mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria found within the board's land development code.
Okay, just go here.
Madam Clerk, would you like to swear them in?
Yes. If you are here to speak on the remaining public hearing items, so P3 through P16, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. Okay. Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. Item P3 is PDD 20-7463.
And it was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 24th, 2020.
And that's on 1936 Abacus Road Land Trust. This is a request for continuance to March 24th, 2020, Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Move to continue time certain.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
P4.
Item P4 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, November 8th, 2019.
PDD 20-0113. This is a mining operating permit and conditional use amendment request. Coastal Landfill Disposal of Florida LLC. This is a request by the Planning and Development Department to continue to March 24th, 2020, BCC meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Move to continue time certain.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item P5 will be pulled from consent and will be heard on regular.
Item P5 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 3rd, 2020.
We're moving on to item P6.
Item P6 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on January 24th, 2020, and I do have someone signed up to speak on that.
There's someone signed to speak? Okay. All right.
And
Should I read it and then we see? Perhaps it doesn't
Yes.
need to be pulled? Okay. Item P6 is PDD 20-7459. It's a zoning amendment, Haman Fuentes, ECMPUD Employment Center Master Plan Unit Development, Haman Fuentes Farm Land Trust. This is a rezoning from an MPUD, Master Plan Unit Development District, to an Employment Center MPUD, Master Plan Unit Development District, to allow an employment center and mixed-use development on approximately 83.5 acres. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission.
And is there anybody here to speak in objection of this item? So you're here speaking, objecting it, not in favor of it? Okay, we need to pull it off
Vote off consent.
consent.
Moving on to item P7.
Item P7 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 24th, 2020.
PDD 27460, SunTrust Bank, Inc., change in zoning from C1 General Commercial District to C2, Neighborhood Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission. P8.
Item P,
Is there anyone to speak to object to this P7?
I have no one signed up.
Okay, seeing no one, leave it on consent.
Okay.
Thank you. Apologize.
Item P8 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 24th, 2020.
PDD 27465, Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas, Inc. This is for a change in zoning from C2 General Commercial District to R4 High Density Residential District. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission.
Okay, anyone to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing no one, will stay on consent.
P9.
Item P9 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 24th, 2020.
Item P9 is PDD 20 CU 16, FL Equities LLC, Stassi's Italian Grill and Pizzeria for the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer, wine only, on premises consumption in conjunction with the operation of a restaurant with outside seating and service of alcoholic beverages on a patio in a PUD, Plan Unit Development District. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing no one, remain on consent.
Item P10.
Item P10 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on January 24th, 2020. I do have someone signed up.
I believe it may be the owner, so if I can read it and you can ask. PDD 20 CU 17, Arc Cafe USA 001 LLC, Applebee's Neighborhood Bar and Grill for the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, and liquor on premises consumption in conjunction with the operation of a restaurant with outside seating and service of alcoholic beverages on a patio in a C2 General Commercial District. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions from the Planning and Development Department and the Planning Commission.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this item? Okay, seeing no one, leave on consent.
I did have someone signed up.
But they didn't
believe
raise
it's
their
the
hand.
owner.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's fine.
All right.
No, we're not supposed to be hearing those anymore.
Item P11.
Item P11 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on January 10th, 2020.
Item P11 is PDD 200352, Large-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CPAL 19-017, Duke Land Exchange Part 1. It's a transmittal of proposed large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use maps 2-15 and sheet 17, changing from IH Industrial Heavy to ROS Major Recreation Open Space on approximately 13.65 acres. Comes to you with a recommendation to authorize transmittal to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other reviewing agencies.
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to this item?
Nope.
Seeing no one, leave on consent.
Item P12.
Item P12 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on January 10th, 2020.
Item P12 is PDD 20-0353. This is the Large-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CPL 1918, Duke Land Exchange, Part 2. It's a transmittal of proposed large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to future land use maps 2-15 and sheet 17, changing from Res 6 residential 6 dwelling units per gross acre to PSP public semi-public on approximately 75 acres. This recommendation is to authorize transmittal of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment amending the future land use map 2-15 and sheet 17 from Res 6 to PSP.
Anyone to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing no one, remain on consent.
And that's the end of the consent agenda.
Okay. We want to go back and hear.
Take a motion on the consent agenda.
Oh,
Move to approve the consent agenda,
Second.
especially the last two.
it will be good. It will be good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Then you go back to
What,
P5.
P5, Denise?
Oh, it was P6?
Or-
P6, I thought.
Well, she pulled P5, and then
Yeah.
Oh,
You pulled P5.
Good afternoon, Tammy Snyder, Planning and Development. Okay, agenda item P5, Oakley Place MPUD, PDD 207449. location map. It is just west of Oakley Boulevard. Proposed is a rezoning request from an AC agricultural, C2 general commercial, and C3 commercial light manufacturing districts to an MPUD master planned unit development district to allow 400 multifamily apartment units, 100 single-family attached townhome units, and a maximum of 150,000 square feet of commercial on approximately 78.96 acres. Here's the master plan. The subject properties are currently unimproved and vacant. The subject site is within the South Market area and the urban service area. The applicant is also seeking a variation from the LDC Section 901.3.A.5 access management and 901.3.M.1 cross-access frontage, reverse frontage roads. No connection to the south due to a large wetland system, and a bike and pedestrian connection only to the north due to safety concerns of residents using the north parcel for ingress-egress. The north parcel is currently a church and does not have adequate traffic or access management improvements such as turn lanes in the driveway. And with that, PDD recommends approval. Well, this is the Planning Commission. PDD recommends approval.
Commissioner Oakley?
It has my name on it, but I have no
Yeah.
affiliation to it whatsoever, so it's based on the Oakley Boulevard property.
Any questions from the board before we bring up? No? Okay.
Good afternoon, Barbara Wilhite, 6327 Grand Boulevard, Newport Richey, Florida, 34652. For the applicant, we bring forward what I think is a well-placed project. Our project is adjacent to the Grove at Wesley Chapel that was just purchased by a new group. It'll be walkable, be able to walk to all the amenities and shopping that the Grove offers now and will continue to offer. It's in a mixed-use land use, designated for higher density, near an interchange. Project is not on 54, not on 56. We're decreasing the trips that are allowed under the existing zoning by about half. And so with that, we would ask that you approve.
I have a question. I'm trying to find it in here, but I don't have the PowerPoint printed out. The trail, you said it only goes to the north, and I'm just trying to figure that out. What's
This is Oakley Place, which is on Oakley Boulevard next to the Grove Shopping Center. The walkability that I'm talking about is that there's an extensive sidewalk system already in the Grove that we will be connecting to, so that will be walkable between the Grove and this project. And there's quite a sidewalk system within the Grove. I think you might be thinking of.
Well, I heard her say something about a trail could only go out the north side due to
They're
residents.
talking about cross-access with the church, the existing church that's on the north side.
Yeah, I just don't have anything here that, I was just curious what that looks like, and
It's going to be pedestrian only.
here.
Yeah, that's the church up there.
Your traffic engineers didn't feel comfortable with it being anything other than pedestrian only.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's no access to Old Pasco Road at all.
That's correct. That's correct.
Which is odd for me. Why would we want to limit mobility?
What Oakley
Oakley
Place is
Boulevard,
for.
Oakley Boulevard does connect to Old Pasco Road.
I know, but
It connects to Old Pasco, and so you dump the traffic out on the collector, and then it can go to the arterial.
Yeah,
I just always support more mobility and more of a grid, so.
it was planned for this to be on Oakley, this traffic signal planned for this traffic to be on Oakley, so that'll be the most direct route.
Okay. Is that it?
Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Well, it's a public hearing, so. This is a public hearing. I did not have anyone sign up to speak on this item. If you'd like to speak on it, please come forward. Okay, seeing no one's to the board.
Got a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
motion carries. P6. Denise?
Tammy Snyder, Planning and Development. Item P6, Haman Fuentes, EC MPUD, PDD 207459. Here's the master plan, the location map. Proposed is a request for rezoning from a master planned unit development district to an EC, Employment Center, Master Planned Unit Development District, for the development of a maximum of 1,600,000 square feet of primary business uses, 30,000 square feet of primary business accessory uses, up to 500 hotel rooms, 140,000 square feet of support commercial retail, and 450 townhomes and/or multifamily dwelling units on approximately 83.5 acres. Here is the master plan. On March 10th, 2004, the BCC approved a rezoning from AC to an MPUD district to allow the maximum of 183 single-family detached dwelling units and 167,491 square feet of professional office. At the time of the 2004 rezoning, the future land use classification on the property was Res 3, residential 3 dwelling units per gross acre. In connection with the 2006 evaluation and appraisal report, comprehensive plan amendments, the county initiated a land use change for the property from Res 3 to EC, Employment Center. The EC land use classification is a mixed-use land use classification that permits corporate business parks, targeted primary businesses, higher density residential and industrial uses. Retail uses are limited to only those that support the primary businesses and residences located within the employment center. Commercial and/or retail uses that are designated to serve a regional purpose are expressly prohibited. The EC Employment Center land use classification mandates the following mix of uses: corporate business park are targeted, minimum 55%, maximum 75%. Multifamily uses, minimum 20%, maximum 40%. And support commercial or office uses, a minimum of 5% and a maximum of 20%. The property is located in the South Market area, and the mission for the South Market area is the creation of a high-density, compact, and mixed-use location with maximized transportation opportunities that attract a broad spectrum of employers and businesses. This area promotes higher density, compact development, and encourages mixed-use communities that are live-work. Consistent with the county's future land use change for the property and inclusion in the South Market area, the applicant proposes to develop the property with the aforementioned uses. And the site contains approximately 83.5 acres of vacant, unimproved land. The applicant is seeking the following variation. Per the table in LDC Section 907.1, on-site parking, 2.25 parking spaces are required per multifamily unit, and the applicant is proposing to reduce that number to 2.0 spaces per unit. There are existing transit stops within a quarter mile of the project, which per the LDC does allow a 15% reduction, and the project is going to be a mixed-use, walkable, live, work, play community with opportunities for alternative mobility options. The project is exempt from timing and phasing transportation review pursuant to Pasco County LDC Section 901.12.C.3.A. The proposed request is consistent with the Pasco County LDC Chapter 400, subsection 402.2 zoning amendment and PUD master plan unit development, and with the applicable provisions of the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan. And with that, PDD recommends approval with conditions.
Any questions? Okay, I only have the one gentleman signed up to speak on this item. If you look, oh, sorry, the applicant first, sorry. Just a minute, sir, once she gets done.
Good afternoon again, Barbara Wilhite, same address. I'm pleased to represent this applicant, the Haman Fuentes family. They have owned this property for some time. In the year 2006, the county had a vision for this property to become an employment center. Well, you picked the right family because they had the patience to wait and hold this property till we're able to finally bring it forward as one of your first employment centers. This zoning matches what your vision was and what your code says. It's fairly easy to put together because it's your code and your comp plan. So I'm not sure exactly what the question may be, but we'll come back and address any concern that there may be. Thank you.
Ms. Wilhite, I don't know if you stated if you were sworn for the record.
I've been sworn, yes.
If you can come forward, your name and address, and if you've been sworn for the record, sir.
Matthew Thiebaud, 2721 Heathgate Way, Land O'Lakes, Florida, 34638. I have been sworn in. In regards to the rezoning of the Haman Fuentes parcel, I request that As the properties in this area are continuously developed, that you take into consideration the harmony and capacity of the infrastructure and aesthetics. Many of us choose this area for its original master plan, what was to be an office complex in a neighboring property at now Mystic Point is a multi-story, high-end luxury apartment spanning 4 stories, eliminates the skyline from more than 22 homes on Odessa Drive, increased runoff, and added to evening light trespass on those properties. Vehicle lights intrude residences when parking in that area over the 6-foot community fence due to the change in elevation. The property currently being addressed was to be homes in harmony with the neighboring community, then changed to an EC. Should the approval continue, I request that the development stage, that serious consideration be given to the neighboring communities and the impact that these elements will have on their infrastructure, lakes, ponds, value of their home, lifestyle, obstruction of view, and the privacy of their residents. My main concern would be the hotel in this instance. That structure is going to be, if installed, probably over 5 stories in my opinion, and will destroy the skyline for the remaining residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Wilhite again, I would just add that, again, we're following your code. This is exactly what your vision for the property is. This was put in place in 2006. The resident purchased their house in 2008. It is approved for these uses. All that being said, at site planning, that's when you deal with the noise and the construction limitations on the time you can do those things, your height, drainage, site planning type issues. So we'd ask that you approve the project, and we will work with the neighbors when we get to site plan.
No. That's not it.
Anything else to the board?
Yeah, that's a lightning cord.
Any questions for Ms. Wilhite?
Nope.
Okay, I mean,
Approval.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. P13?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, do we have proof?
We have proof on P13 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 11th, 2020, and January 18th, 2020.
What number are we on?
And I do have one person signed up.
I believe that's the owner.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Heather Wolf, Real Property and Planning. The Real Property and Planning team has received a petition to vacate a portion of a drainage and utility easement filed by Joyce and Jan Pracky. Currently, there are no facilities in this easement, and petitioners have requested the vacation for the purpose of construction of a swimming pool and surrounding deck. The petitioners have executed a replacement easement in favor of Pasco County to the west side of the property, and there are no objections to this petition, and the team recommends approval.
Did the applicant,
The applicant is here.
did he or she want to speak on the item?
No, I didn't.
Is there any questions from the board? This is a public hearing. As anyone else would like to speak on this item, please come forward. Seeing no one.
Mr. Chairman, seeing no one approve, I look forward to having this move forward.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. P14,
P14 is a petition to vacate a portion of a platted drainage and utility easement.
May I give, do you mind? Can I give publication at the beginning?
Pardon?
Can I give publication?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Item P14 was published in the Tampa Bay Times, January 31st, 2020, and February 7th, 2020. Thank you.
Okay. Heather Wolf in place of Derek Berger for the Real Property and Planning Division. Our team has received a petition to vacate a portion of a drainage and utility easement filed by Lewis Heights. The petitioner has requested the vacation for the purpose of construction of a swimming pool and surrounding deck, and they have requested to vacate a 7-foot portion of the easement. There were no objections to this petition, and the team recommends approval.
any questions? So is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one, it's back to the board. Approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And I know we have quite a few folks signed up for P15, so we can just skip ahead to P16, and then we'll come back to P15, please. Madam Clerk, do we have proof?
We do have proof on item P16 was published in the Tampa Bay Times December 27th, 2019, and by affidavits and site postings.
Ernie Monaco Planning and Development, PDD 16 is PDD 20-0370, a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for the villages of Pasadena Hills, CPAL 20-0005. Proposal is to authorize transmittal of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment, CPAL 20-005, amending text, figures, and tables to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other reviewing agencies. Location, villages of Pasadena Hills, which is directly east of Connected City. See above there. You've seen this before. We took the Land Development Code. Proposed new revisions include the removal of the mandatory traditional neighborhood development requirements. Now, is it still there, but is it an incentive and it's consistent with the rest of the county? The alternative transportation facilities are now mandatory, and what that really means is really quite interesting. If you live in Connected City, you can actually now, in the future, be able to take your golf cart all the way to VOPH Super Park, and if you live in the VOPH, you can take your golf cart to various events at Crystal Lagoon, plus other places like schools and things like that. So now there's a seamless transition between the two dependent districts. And then development applicants must host a publicly noticed village meeting at least 30 days prior to the VOPH Planning and Policy Committee. There are no changes to the number of entitlements, the number of residential units, nor the intensity of non-residential uses in square feet. The comprehensive plan consistency, the following policies are consistent with the proposed comp plan amendment. It's policy flu 6, establishing a long-term vision, and long-term plans must be reviewed and updated as needed on a regular basis, and that is exactly the justification of why in September we took it upon as a county-initiated thing to basically update the villages of Pasadena Hills, keep it up to speed with a lot of the changes. Later on, if you have more questions about details, Pat Gasaway is here as a consultant that's hired by the POG, can answer and go into levels of detail if needed. The second policy flu 6.13, mechanisms for urban development. Since the Pasadena Hills area plan is an overlay to the Pasco County future land use map, text revisions were needed to basically clarify that any rezoning or similar action which results in an increase in density or intensity, even if it's a comp plan amendment, is required. If not, it's not required, requires adherence to the VOPH regulations and the financial plan fee structure. It's important. There was a little bit of confusion over that. Landowners can still choose to develop their parcels on their current zoning or a rezoning that does not increase density or intensity without being subject to the additional VOPH development fee surcharges. However, the compliance with the applicable VOPH regulations otherwise is required, such as the Master Roadway Plan. And finally, Policy Flu 6.41, connected multimodal transportation system. And I spoke about that with the golf carts and be able to bike and walk. And just to let you know, there's a timetable. April 7th is the final adoption of the CPAL and the LDC amendments. There'll be actually 3 resolutions: the financial plan, the golf cart resolution, the fee credit registry resolution. Phase 2, we're meeting actually March 12th. The utility master plan is up and running, and we're having meetings then. And there were 2 things that needed to be also done, preferably really before Phase 2. I think they will be done pretty much. It's minor clarifications on the core reserve and the village separators. So we are in progress right now, refining those things. They'll be in place, I guarantee you, they'll be in place. That'll be cool. And what we're doing is we're basically recommending that we authorize transmittal of the proposed comp plan amendment, CPAL 20-0005, amending text, figures, and tables to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other reviewing agencies. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up to speak on this item. Seeing no one, it's...
Move approval.
Okay, hang on. Hang on.
fast. Where'd she come from?
Barbara Wilhite, same address, still sworn. I'm here on behalf of DPP Ranch LLC. I represent Crown Community as well regarding VOPH issues, and I've been working with staff on the Crown Community issues for Watergrass, and we have language that'll come to you at adoption. With regard to DPP Ranch, they have concerns regarding some new language and graphics dealing with village separators. There's a conference call with staff on the 28th I'm going to attend. I've been communicating with Ernie, very hopeful that we'll work that out, but my client did want me to put on the record on behalf of DP Ranch that they are concerned about that item. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
And I received a phone call from someone that, I don't know whether this is true or not, but he said that the buffer, some of the buffer language was requiring that the neighbors put the buffers on their property. So I don't know if that's true or not, Ernie, but this person was raising concern that people who weren't part of VOPH were requiring to buffer.
What happened back in 2008, because the concept of the area plan of VOPH was these separate, unique villages, they wanted to have a buffer between each village. It was 150 feet. So when you develop your property, that's when you draw in your 150 feet. Now, we felt that was a bit overkill. We want the separations, they're unique, the concept is really good, but I think we can make this work that's much more livable for everybody. So that's why we're meeting to get this resolved and also bring this a little bit more marketable for everybody.
But the requirements of VOPH are for the VOPH in the boundaries of it, right? Not for
Yeah.
someone that's next to it.
Oh, okay.
and
That
not
was
in it.
another issue, yes, that one of the stakeholders was concerned about. We're working with him as well to ensure we're not quite sure where we're going to get, but we know that we'll get there together. It'll be mutually agreed by the time we get there.
And
He
I
was
didn't-
concerned about that, yes.
I don't know who the person was. This was relayed to me secondhand, so I don't even know who the landowner is.
I know one applicant that's
Okay.
affected, and he's actually part of the conversation that we're having.
Just relaying
Yeah.
that.
Another question. Ernie, you talking about 150-foot buffer for each town?
It's
Separation?
within, the buffer is between the villages. It's 150 between villages.
Each village.
So, yeah, between the villages. So, and it comes when you.
5 each?
Right, so when you
Share?
when you develop your property, that's when you draw your line, your village separator. It's
It
not
first
exactly a
sounded like-
buffer,
yeah.
it's a village separator. There's a little bit distinctions there.
Yeah. It first sounded like you were getting 150 from each. and
No,
that's
no,
300.
no.
That's too
We're
much
gonna kill you
land.
all.
so-
No.
Okay.
It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
thank you.
Thank
You know, board members, just like we approved the Avalon Wesley Chapel, I was going to say Avalon West this morning, which is a true T&D neighborhood, I think that this is going to be a really special, unique area of Pasco County that will certainly attract people who like this village concept, which I personally do very much.
And we have a super park in that.
Yeah,
that
great
village
park.
also.
No, it's going to be really nice development.
And a village center in each village.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
really
cool.
outstanding.
Okay, thank you
I
guys.
move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. P16,
P15.
oh, P15, sorry, yes.
P15 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on November 29th, 2019.
And before you start, out of respect to Chairman Moore, obviously, I know he's not here. I know that I received emails the last couple days that the individual said he sent to Commissioner Moore, so I assume we all got them about wanting to continue this. I know it's not from the applicant, but from some of the residents. So I don't know if, Barbara, if you want to come up, and again, Commissioner Moore's not here. I just want the board needs to make a decision. Do we want to continue? Do we want to hear it and move forward? I just want to get your thoughts, if I could, please.
Thank you. Barbara Wilhite again for the applicant. This is actually a continued hearing. Your first item, P1, you continued the adoption hearing for this matter until April 7th. This was the adoption hearing. We had a neighborhood meeting in December, and there were residents came out. In total, we've had 98 residents come to our meetings, total. They came out and expressed concerns. So we delayed our hearings, continued them, and that's why you had continuance. You've had the continuance today for the adoption hearing. We have had 2 neighborhood meetings. We've made extensive changes to our plans. The continuance that you hear is not for them to work with us, is to object, which you can hear them today. It's only a transmittal today. We need to get going in this process because we've already delayed ourselves to work with the neighbors. No final action or decision will be made today. So we'd ask that you go ahead and hear. It's good for all of us to hear from the residents, as well as hear our presentation and ultimately transmit so we can get the process going. So we'd like to go forward today and let you hear our project.
Okay.
I'm good.
Board's okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Erica Winlands, Planning and Development. I did receive 2 more opposition letters last Thursday, and I submitted them to Don Lee to the clerk. However, I do have printed out copies, so I would like to submit that.
We probably have them, but we'll take them.
Okay.
Well,
Just
do we have to
because-
move to receive from our own staff?
Well, you've already submitted them into the
I
clerk's
emailed
office?
them to Donnelly this morning, because these were just from last week that weren't able to be submitted with the SIRE, so I wanted to be able to officially.
So they're part of the record.
Okay. All right, you can hand them to us.
Clerk.
Item P15, PDD 20-0340 is a transmittal hearing for CPAL 1916 Little Lake Thomas. On January 23rd, the Planning Commission, acting as a local planning agency, recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Proposed is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for a change in future land uses from residential 3 and ROR, retail, office, and residential, to Res 6, residential dwelling units per gross acre, to allow for a townhome development on approximately 41 acres. The proposed comprehensive plan amendment is located in the central area. The site location is at the intersection of Little Lake Thomas Road and Land O'Lakes Boulevard, about a half-mile north of Aaron Cutoff. There is single-family residential located at the north, south, and west, including the preserve at Lake Thomas to the south and a mobile home park to the east. There is a mixed commercial located, including East Elite Fence and an auto body shop located along Land O'Lakes Boulevard, and also predominant water bodies. The existing future land uses are Res 3 and ROR. There is an established development pattern at Land O'Lakes Boulevard and Caliente Boulevard, which is future Tower Road. Residential 9 dwelling units per gross acre and residential 6 dwelling units per gross acre is located at the northeast and southeast corners. The proposed flow to Res 6 is intended to serve as a transition and step down in density and intensity at the frontage of Land O'Lakes Boulevard to the single-family residential located to the west. The Res 6 allows for the availability for varying housing products, which is an option and choice, which is also a part of the mission and vision and goals, a part of the central market area. And with that, Planning and Development recommends that the Board of County Commissioners authorize transmittal of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment, CPAL 1916 Little Lake Thomas, to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other reviewing agencies. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, you want to just wait till we go through everything? If the applicant wants to come forward, please.
Do you want your PowerPoint now?
Yes, please.
Yes.
So, wait a minute. We have this, we gotta get a motion on this?
It's a copy of our PowerPoint presentation.
Move to receive.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'll take it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Wilhite for the applicant. As I mentioned before, we have done quite a bit for this project, but the project is an MPUD, comp plan amendment and an MPUD. Only thing before you today is a transmittal. We'll have to come back to you with the MPUD and the comp plan amendment adoption, when you actually should be hearing all the details regarding this project. But we've tried to be very transparent. We have been very transparent with the neighbors, and so we're giving you more information than you'd normally have at the comp plan level. We're an infill site. We're proposing 218 new fee simple townhomes. Our density is 4 units per acre. It's about half of the typical density for a townhome project. And again, our projects will come together back to you for a final action, both of our applications. Extensive changes, we'll go through those. 12 changes have been made as a result of the meetings. We changed our whole project orientation. But what I'd like to do is just come back and address things in rebuttal so that you can hear from the residents. I'd like to hear from them as well. I have my team here. We have traffic engineer, Steve Henry, Joe Simino, our project and drainage engineer, Alexis Crespo, our project planner, and Tony Tanico, the developer who's done a lot of work with our residents and the neighbors. So with that, I'm going to sit back and listen to the comments, and then we'll come back and try to address the concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, you want to go in order with the folks signed up?
Yes. I think I have about a total of 8 people signed up on this. I have John Lan. You can step
Come forward.
forward. Followed by Ed Bly. If you could state your name, address, and also if you've been sworn.
Hi, my name is John Land. I live at 21018 Marsh Hog Drive in Land O'Lakes. I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the developers and the attorneys for the opportunity to speak today, and thank the residents for the opportunity as well. We've communicated thoroughly, and we've brought up some ideas and concerns that we felt needed to be addressed, which, one of which in my particular case concerns health and safety, because when we go back to the county land use plan, that is one of the key factors to ensure the roads are safe and efficient. Now, I understand we have a traffic engineer, and I would love to hear some of their comments as well. But the one key element for the plan development that is a safety hazard is that there's no left turn out of the development onto 41. Yes, DOT says the road can handle the new volume, but we've got to look deeper than the numbers and use a little common sense here. A left-hand turn lane out of the development must be mandated. And if the county won't pay for it, then we need to look at a way to do it with the developer, however that works. We've got 218 units. That equates to 436 vehicles. Now, safety issue number one is that all of the traffic has to take a right turn only, traveling south out of the development. Now, all the major retail centers and the schools, they're to the north. Now, these 436 vehicles are going to be forced to make a U-turn at the intersection of Highway 41 and Aaron Cutoff. An extremely dangerous intersection. It's the deadliest there, and we at the Preserve have already had one resident killed in that exact same scenario within the last 90 days. Safety issue number two is the extreme limited visibility where those people are making the U-turns. Aaron Cutoff and 41, it's not built for U-turns. Visibility both north and south is simply impossible, and I deal with it on a daily basis coming in and out of the Preserve. The U-turn lanes are angled and don't allow for safety. And I know I'm a little over, but just wanted to mention.
You've got 1 minute.
Well, thank you. One other safety issue refers to the peak traffic hours. This is a highly residential area. We've got school buses that stop there every single morning, and each school bus has to spend a minimum of 5 minutes in order to allow the kids to get on and off. We combine that with the U-turns and the visibility issues. We're just waiting for an accident to happen. I'm not opposed to development. I'm not opposed to this project if we can make it safe for everyone involved, because we don't want to come back and say, how many lives is it going to take for us to do something with this in the future? There's got to be a left-hand turn out of this development, and I urge the county to please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you call the next speaker, Ms. Wilhite alluded to it, but I'm going to reiterate, this is a comprehensive plan amendment, so those details, the speaker's input can be taken for an increase in density, but comp plan is not the place where you condition a left-hand turn.
And that's important for the folks here to hear, because they probably don't know that.
May I ask what is the proper way to address that?
Hey, Mike?
Not from there, sir.
Well,
Go ahead, Jeff.
So this is not rezoning. Rezoning is when the site plan approval for the MPUD is done. This is comprehensive, this is big picture, this is comprehensive planning. So this is the change in intensity for the site, but not the actual, what is put there. At this point, this could, if it's planned to a Res 6, it could be single family, it could be multifamily, it's anything that is allowable in that Res 6 category. The applicant has shown you what they're intending to put there, so this has gotten the proceeding a little out of sync. That's my only point.
All right, the next person that I have signed up to speak is Ed Bly, followed by Shirley Schmidt. Please state your name, address, and if you've been sworn.
Ed Bly, 21137 Little Lake Thomas Road, Land O'Lakes, Florida. I've been sworn in.
Thank you.
Today's vote is not about 218 townhouses in Land O'Lakes. In fact, 99% of Pasco residents have no idea the ramifications of today's vote and its impact on the older established communities throughout the county. Today's decision will allow developers to bundle properties together in the older established communities and then request to double the density of said properties. This will create a trend that will affect all of the older established communities in Pasco County, whether they are in Shady Hills, Newport Richey, Dade City, or Zephyr Hills. Furthermore, I believe that if the people in these communities knew what was being voted on today, they would be here with us, because they know that their community would be next. Going forward, nothing would stop developers from bundling multi-acre parcels, demolishing the existing structures, then applying for multifamily rezoning. Barbara Wilhite wants us to believe that her client is concerned about her community. They have issued a list of concessions to support this idea. I believe these concessions are profit-driven and/or required. For example, the only three-story townhomes that I know of are west of US 19 near Green Key Beach, where I assume 3 stories are required. Nobody builds 3-story townhomes if they don't have to. The only 3-story multifamily units that I know of are all apartment complexes. Barbara also states that her client will devote 20% of acreage for water retention. I believe this statement to be disingenuous. Barbara's client will only do what is required by SWIFMUD, no more, no less. As for the site plan, it looks more like a site plan for the Marine Corps Barracks at Camp Pendleton. Most of these concessions are just selling points to persuade the board to vote in favor of this rezoning request. A real concession would be lowering the number of units from 218, a number that Planning Commission Chairman Gray found to be too intense. On a personal note, I've been a Pasco resident for 35 years. I am also a 33-year UPS driver whose UPS center is right down Ridge Road. For the last 30 years, I've made the commute from Land O'Lakes to Port Richey every workday. This is something that I've never regretted because it gave me the opportunity to raise my family in a beautiful place. Also, for the last 33 years, I have driven the highways and byways of West Pasco County on a daily basis, and I have witnessed all of the development, some of which was well thought out and planned, while some of it was not. I understand that the burden on our planners and elected officials is great, because it is their job to ensure that the county is developed in a responsible and progressive manner. So today I appeal to you to think of the older established communities in your districts and the impact that today's vote will have on them, because it was these communities that made Pasco an appealing place to live, and they deserve to be protected from this type of rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shirley Schmidt, please step up to the podium, followed by Jerry Schmidt.
I'm Shirley Schmidt, 21133 Marsh Hawk Drive in Land O'Lakes. I have been sworn.
Thank you.
I'd like to submit some items for your review in conjunction with my
Move to
testimony.
receive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank
motion
you.
carries.
I am speaking in opposition to this proposal. I'd like to share some information about other amendments to the land use maps. Comprehensive plan amendments are available on the county's website. There are 2 recent amendments that I'd like to draw your attention to. They are CPAL 18-18, also called Aaron Cutoff, and CPAL 18-09, called Hagman. The Aaron Cutoff Amendment is located 1 mile off Land O'Lakes Boulevard and contains almost 40 acres. The county approved a change in zoning from Res 1 to Res 6. You can see this parcel on the slide colored in red. Within the text of the proposal is a table called Surrounding Zoning and Uses. The attorney of record for this project, Ms. Wilhite, made sure to point out that Aaron Cutoff has vacant properties on 3 sides. The second amendment, Hagman, is similar in many ways. It is over 46 acres off Land O'Lakes Boulevard. The county approved a change from zoning Res 3 to PD, and you can see the parcel on this slide colored in red. On the surrounding zoning and uses table, we can see that the property is surrounded on 2 sides by Pasco County property, on 1 side by vacant land. The proposal before you is about 41 acres, give or take, and located on Land O'Lakes Boulevard. The proposal is to take future land use Res 3 and amend to Res 6. In these two cases we pointed out, the commissioners have granted rezoning requests over Res 3, but have limited the impact of those decisions to 3.5 density and single-family homes, not townhomes. This is where the similarities between the three properties end. There is clearly a difference between 120 or 130 single-family detached homes and 218 townhouses. There's clearly a difference in density from 3.5 to 4.8. But neither Aaron Cutoff nor Haman share a private lake with surrounding homeowners. When adding homeowners who share the lakefront, we see a stark contrast. There are a total of 105 homeowners representing almost 300 acres who are stakeholders in the decision before you. Please look carefully. In addition, the properties surrounding Little Lake Thomas are vastly different as well. Aaron Cutoff has over 515 vacant acres and 3 acres of single-family homes. Haman has almost 100 vacant acres, and almost 120 acres are owned by the county. The proposal has only 9 vacant acres, but has 3 sides that include single-family detached homes. This proposal should be rejected because it is not consistent with the neighborhood in type, density, surrounding land, and stakeholder impact. The Pasco residents must be able to rely on FLU maps. Please consider your vote carefully and vote no on this proposal.
Thank you.
Jerry Schmidt, followed by Kathy Eshelman.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Schmidt. I live at 21133 Marsh Drive, Land O'Lakes, Florida 34638, and I've been sworn. I'd like to submit items in addition to my testimony. I'm speaking in opposition today.
You need a motion to receive and file.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm speaking in opposition today regarding the proposal before you. My concern is a long history of drainage problems in communities around Lake Thomas. At meetings with the developer this fall, neighbors expressed their concerns about the water problems both on the north and south side of Lake Thomas. Several letters were sent to Erica Winland on this topic. At the Planning Commission meeting in January, residents gave sworn testimony to similar facts. But Pasco already knows about these long-standing concerns. The map called 2003 Flood-Prone Areas and is found on the Pasco County website. I'll draw your attention to the lower center portion of the map, which is enlarged for you here. The green vertical line in the center is Land O'Lakes Boulevard. The largest body of water to the left is that of Lake Thomas, and the red line above Lake Thomas is Little Lake Thomas Road. A red line, according to the key or legend on the left side, indicates roadways frequently overtopped with stormwater. But the roadways aren't the only issue here. According to the Pasco County Mapper website, several parcels on Lake Thomas have designated called storm floods, and the references to that El Nino 98. You can see from this slide how this appears in the parcel details. The last column indicates how much of the parcel itself was underwater. In this case, 45% of this parcel suffered water problems during that storm. In aggregate, 20 of the 23 parcels with frontage on Little Lake Thomas Road have this storm floods designation. This totals 3.43 acres of water problems on the parcels on Little Lake Thomas Road for the El Nino storm in ’98. All of this in addition to the roadway concerns. The 2025 Comprehensive Plan Policy, FLU 1.2.6, dated July 25th, 2013, states that the 2003 flood-prone area map is a mechanism to evaluate future development, and potential solutions may include limitations to density and intensity. Little Lake Thomas Road and surrounding homeowners parcels have a 22-year documented history of stormwater concerns. Residents' testimony states that these concerns have not gone away. Are the normal procedures for water drainage studies for this project adequate given 22 years of problems? Aren't additional in-depth measures merited before there are any new developments on Little Lake Thomas Road? Later, the developer will present data that seems to address this issue. This is inadequate. It does not address the larger concerns of the neighborhood. Just one portion of the roadway. This proposal will, with density of 4.8 units per acre, is too high in an already sensitive neighborhood. Please vote no. Thank you.
Kathy Eshelman. Next up is Jesse Paradella.
Hello, my name is Kathy Eshelman. I live at 5419 Shell Road, Land O'Lakes, Florida, 34638, and I have been sworn. I have been a resident on the south side of Lake Thomas for 28 years. I am deeply concerned about the flooding and traffic this 218 townhome development will create. As for access to Lake Thomas, we have been promised a boardwalk to eliminate all lake access, which is an adequate solution. Although I would rather see single-family homes with those directly on the lake having access. This would mirror existing lake access rights currently in place for two large developments, the Preserve at Lake Thomas and Lake Thomas Point. My biggest concern is rezoning. I have seen a lot of residential growth over the years, including two large developments on Lake Thomas, all of which have one thing in common. Every home is single-family. The proposed development has no single-family homes and will be made up entirely of townhomes. To my knowledge, there is no development in the surrounding area made up entirely of townhomes. I'm not opposed to townhomes, but they are not compatible here. It is not a good fit, and it does not belong on this property. Rezoning from Res 3 to Res 6 will set a precedent. It will forever change land use in this area. I have 6.84 acres for sale in front of my home and 15.76 acres for sale directly behind my home. Townhomes could be built on this property. Townhomes could be built on every available acreage for sale in this community. You are elected to represent the people, and I hope you give careful consideration to our valid concerns. Please vote no on rezoning to Res 6. I thank you for hearing my concerns today. I would also like to submit petitions in opposition of this development. The petitions have 191 signatures on them.
You'll need a motion to receive and file.
Move to receive?
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh. We got to go. So
I'm busy looking at the
somehow, I don't
map.
know where you go when the chair and the vice chair go. Do we have another person to speak?
Yes, we do.
Hello, my name is Jesse Paradella, 20918 Little Lake Thomas Road. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
And sir, just state if you've been sworn.
I have.
Thank you.
I just want to start with taking a moment to thank God we are blessed to live in the best country in the world. God bless America. We have the right to speak freely, even against our government, when we do not agree with what they are proposing. I pray that continues for future generations. The vast majority of the members of our community are against rezoning from Res 3 to Res 6. I personally am not against development. I just feel strongly that it is not in the best interest of Land O'Lakes to allow Res 6. If this project is approved, it will set a precedent. The next developer's lawyer will have this project to point to and state, if you approved the project on Little Lake Thomas Road, then why are you not going to approve my client's project? Or for that matter, any individual that owns a few acres of, to do the same. In short, it's spot zoning. The problem with condos is or are that a high percentage of them become rentals. So in my view, there is not much of a difference. I have firsthand knowledge. My family and I have owned rental properties most of my life. I own a condo in Carewood. It has given me great ROI. Half the units in the complex are rentals. Again, that is another one of our concerns. There is nothing to stop any individual or corporation from purchasing and renting most of the condos. So in essence, you can call it a condo, but there is not much of a distinction between the two. I moved from Carrollwood to Land O'Lakes over 20 years ago to live on the lake and enjoy the quality of life. I love Land O'Lakes, raised our daughter in Land O'Lakes, starting at Sanders Elementary and graduating from Land O'Lakes High. She is now in college, thank God. I know many of my neighbors who are not able to attend these meetings so far from Land O'Lakes. They, like most of us, have busy lives with work, children, and so on. Please accept our request for continuance, or better yet, just vote no on Res 6. Thank you. May God bless you all, and God bless America.
I have two people left that signed up, Joe Sadel and Jean Sani.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Joe Seigel. I live at 20955 Lake Thomas Road. First, I want to say there's nothing.
Sir, just say if you've been sworn first.
I have been sworn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. There's nothing personal here. I believe everyone in this room is a good person. I've lived in this community for 37 years, and I'm here to say, make no mistake about it, commissioners, you're about to kill a golden goose. And do you really want to do that? Sorry, the site is too narrow enough for single-family homes to make the big bucks. But do we have to sacrifice our way of life because of that? There are other sites, but no other places like Land O'Lakes. And that's why you established the Res 3 designation here, in order to protect our community. Please don't change it now, just when we need you the most. My 4-year-old granddaughter is very smart, but any 4-year-old could look at the plan and tell you there's one thing here that's not like the others. The applicant's plan is obviously incompatible with its neighbors, but less apparent, the applicant's plan is incompatible with our entire community. Frankly, for them to even ask for this many units, this much of a density increase, is pretty darn aggressive. Did you drive around and get a feel for the area before you submitted your plan? Commissioners, please don't let this community's please don't ignore this community's heritage because some out-of-towners from Pinellas want to turn a big profit. It's taken decades to build this community, but please realize you could be destroying it in just a matter of minutes. Us citizens of Land O'Lakes have held our tongues when you and dozens of large so-called large cattle farmers have come up with a slash, burn, and build method of development. Maybe that's fine for wide open cattle land, but this place is unique and it deserves some special attention. Don't approve this project because that's what you've grown accustomed to doing in other parts of the county. Land O'Lakes is a gem. Some of Pasco County's finest natural resources are located here, and this is one of the most unique communities that we have. Generations of nature-loving families have raised their kids here. Please resist this constant pressure to build, build, build. It's time to protect, protect, protect. Please defend this gem of a community and its natural resources because they are because they are Pasco's finest. This is the legacy we wish to leave to our children. Commissioners, please help us do that. Is that too much to ask? We don't need to increase the densities here to this degree. We don't want to become another New Tampa. Can you please understand that? Be strong enough to say thanks, but no thanks. We're good here. Res 3 densities are fine. We're growing fast enough. We don't need to ramp it up any further. Please don't let them kill this golden goose of a community, for it is unique and it cannot be replaced. You established the land use code. Together we set the Res 3 designation. Please stand by it. The developer and his consultants have offered no compelling reasons to change it now. You asked us to sign on to your code, and we did. If in it you promised to work to protect our natural resources, improve our quality of life, and this developer's plan does neither. When you became
Need to wrap it up,
commissioner-
sir. Need to wrap it up.
All right, wrap it up.
10 seconds.
It's not easy being the parent of the room, but you guys are our parents in effect. Somebody's got to be the parent of the room. One final thing. Please review the Planning Commission hearing minutes. We're supposed to talk about densities. I'm not sure we spent enough time on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And the last person I have signed up is Jean Sani.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Sanner. I live at 21225 Marsh Drive, Land O'Lakes, 231, sorry, that was my old zip code, 34638. My property is immediately adjacent to this parcel. I have some items to submit to the record.
Move to receive and file?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to draw your attention this afternoon to what appear to be inconsistencies or a lack of transparency in this amendment process. In a neighborhood notice letter dated October, listed the 3 parcels on this proposal. The site details list them as 9.44, 14.94, and 14.65 acres. This totals 39.03 acres. That is not consistent with the other text in the proposal, which states the parcels are 41.75 acres. With a little digging, some inconsistencies also arise. In early conversations, the developer stated that the proposal included a dock for motorized watercraft that then became non-motorized watercraft, and now it's a pedestrian walkway. In this slide, you'll see that the parcels in the proposal, the parcels in the proposals are in blue, and another parcel that consists of lake bottom is in orange. This lake bottom parcel in orange is what I'm concerned about. These next 2 slides are the legal descriptions of those parcels from the county website. It clearly states that the border between the 2 is along the shoreline. That's in red there. And this is the lake bottom parcel lying on the shoreline. Why wasn't this lake bottom parcel included in the original communications with the neighbors? Why wasn't it included in the Planning Commission meeting in January? It was clearly the intention of the developer to include the lake bottom parcel from the very beginning. It's a procedural concern. Why should the lake bottom parcel be included? To ensure that all applicable environmental impact studies are conducted, to ensure legal transparency in a contested amendment request, to ensure that the long-term interests of the county and other lake property owners are protected. In a recent email to neighbors dated February 11th, it states that the proposal includes 45.52 acres. An attachment to that email contains the most recent MPUD dated February 11th. This proposal finally includes the lake bottom parcel. February 11th was the first time that the lake bottom parcel was included in a site plan. This is the first time that neighbors saw the developer's true intent. It is still not included in the amendment proposal. The lake bottom parcel ID on the recent MPUD listed is not consistent with what's on the county's website. There must have been a very recent change in that parcel data. What is happening with the lake bottom parcel that neighbors are not aware of? The second document before you includes a satellite image of that lake bottom parcel. You can see in the boundary that within the boundaries of that parcel include items of interest to adjacent property owners. All interested parties, the county, lake owners, neighbors, have a vested interest in the details of any arrangements the developer has made with these 2 property owners. My concerns are procedural. The timing of the release of the details of this project is concerning. Please, require the developer to include the lake bottom parcel as part of the proposal before you. But more importantly, require him to disclose any agreements between the previous parcel owner and any other interested parties. Thank you for your service to our county.
That's all that I have signed up.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this item? Okay, back to the applicant.
Good afternoon. Steve Henry, Links & Associates, 5023 West Laurel, and I have been sworn. I want to talk to you about the traffic and address some of the comments that we've got in there. Number one is that the project access is on the 6-lane urban section of US 41. And this graphic shows the location. We've actually met with DOT about the access, and they have indicated they are in favor of the access that we're proposing for the project. The next graphic illustrates the traffic for the project. So this is a comparison of what the current comp plan would allow, which is 100 single-family homes, versus the 218 townhomes. The 100 single-family homes would generate about 102 PM peak hour trips. The townhomes would be about 118, so 16 trips difference between the single-family current land use versus the 218 proposed before you today. What this equates to, from a traffic impact standpoint, okay, so basically what it equates to is a 0.3% increase in the level of service capacity of the road. So an insignificant impact to US 41. In addition to that, we will be building a right turn lane into the project to allow cars to get out of the through lane of US 41 to be able to make the U-turn. And DOT is requiring the right turn lane, and that turn lane will be built in accordance with FDOT criteria. One of the other comments that came up was the U-turns at the intersection of US 41 and Aaron Cutoff. And as we had talked about with the residents prior to that, right now, the way that those left turns work is it's a protected permissive phase, meaning you get an arrow, that arrow then turns to a blinking yellow, and so you can go when there's a break in the traffic. What we've talked to DOT about, and DOT's current safety department is currently looking at, is making that a protected only. And what that will do is you can only turn on a arrow, so that eliminates that issue that they've had where people are turning when the light turns red and making that quick turn. So that will decrease the safety concerns that they currently have at that intersection. I'm happy to answer any questions if you've got any. Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner?
So you have limited access to, you don't have access to, is it Lake Thomas Road?
Little Lake Thomas.
If you allowed only exit from there, but not entrance, and so people who were driving their kids to school or whatever, do you go the back way?
What my understanding from the residents from the initial meeting, I wasn't at those, but the developer had originally proposed access to Little Lake Thomas, and the residents were extremely against that option because of adding additional traffic to their roadway system. And so that's why he went back and redesigned the site to only have access to US 41.
Well, as everyone, most people know, I am for the more exits and entrances, the better. Isn't that a better traffic plan?
Yeah, whenever you be able to have access to multiple roadways, yes.
But
we were trying to satisfy the residents.
Right.
That's why we would say.
And I understand they don't want to have all. I mean, they wouldn't want that road to be a primary traffic road, which the way you have, the way you have it set up is that US 41 is. But I'm just wondering if someone needed to go north, is the elementary school north of there or south of there? So I'm just wondering, I mean, a very small percentage of people there are going to be going to that school, I would think. I personally would be okay if it was an exit, so they wouldn't have to go down and make the U-turn to get to school, or they could get out and get to a school bus stop. I think it would be safer for everybody.
And we've looked at the numbers as far as what those number of U-turns might be. During the AM peak hour, it's about 27 additional U-turns, and in the PM, it's about 15. So we're not talking about, I know some of you are saying 400 in some cars. We're not talking about that kind of number. We're talking about 27 and 15. So it's a relatively small number that may have to go north and may have to make that U-turn.
Let me say that my daughter, who's in Hawaii now, Pearl Harbor, they bought a home in West Chase, and it's right near the elementary school. But because of this traffic issue, they have a very strange entrance into their block where it only can go one way, and it's only so the parents can get their kids to school. So it has been done, and I'm just throwing it out here.
Mr. Chairman, I'll remind the commissioner that these
That's
conversations
right.
should
That's
occur
for the
in the
next.
MPUD, not.
This is only about submittal. Okay, sorry, I'm getting into too much detail. Thank you. Yeah, but they got into detail too.
Thank you.
So Barbara, are you up?
Good afternoon. Joe Simino with WRA Engineering, 4260 West Linebaugh Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33624. I have been sworn. Again, we're not here to talk about construction plan level design or drainage calculation review, but I can get slightly into the weeds to try to address some of these comments. They were valid concerns, so I'll try to address some of those. A lot of text up there on that slide. The point that that's trying to make is we've got two agencies, the Southwest Florida Water Management District and Pasco County, that have very capable drainage engineers that review our plans top to bottom, and they review them in conformance with Florida Administrative Code. We pulled out those 5 bullets up there that essentially are tasking those agencies to review that we are not increasing discharge downstream, we're not flooding on-site or off-site, no impacts to storage or conveyance, which means there's existing water being stored on site now, there's existing conveyance from east to west across the site now. We need to prove to those agencies that we're not impeding either, we're accounting for that storage, and we're replacing that conveyance. And then no impacts to water quality, meaning that our water quality treatment ponds meet all state regulations. So we have 2 agencies that are going to be reviewing in accordance with those criteria. And again, we don't want to get too deep into the weeds. That's what the construction plan review is for. But we did want to point out, because we were aware of the flooding concerns on Thomas Circle and Little Lake Thomas Road, we wanted to flag that we have about 4.5 acres, as shown on that graphic to the left, that are currently draining directly into those roadways, contributing to that flooding. We have the right, basically per Water Management District Code, Florida Administrative Code, Pasco County Code, to continue discharging that way. It doesn't make any sense to discharge where there's flooding problems along that road. So what we would be doing is we would be taking that discharge internally to our site, removing 4.5 acres from those roads that are currently being adversely impacted by flooding. So again, a little in the weeds, but we wanted to flag that because we intend on doing that. Just a quick summary, we've heard a lot of comparisons
Pardon
between...
me. Can I just ask a question? Can you go back one slide?
Yes, sir.
So looking at this, the square footage from your map, and maybe I didn't see this when we met before, but that looks like a lot larger piece of property compared to the drainage over there. How did you equate where all that water is going to be able to store there?
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that
The current condition,
Yes.
it shows a much larger piece of property, square footage,
Right.
than it does the retention area that's on the side.
Highlighted in blue?
Right.
I understand what the question is. So what we're showing there on the left is just the drainage area. So that's 4 acres of sheet flow raining on and draining into there. On the right-hand side, that's just one of multiple ponds we're showing, and the only reason we showed that portion of the property is because that's directly adjacent to where that 4 acres is sheeting off.
Okay.
That pond is smaller than that sheet flow drainage area, but it has multiple feet of storage in it. Oh, there we go. So we've got multiple ponds across the property. Full disclosure, the very light blue ones are existing wetlands. Don't want to give anybody the impression we're counting those as ponds, but the, I guess, more gray-blue ones are new ponds, so there's additional ponds all throughout the property. And again, the one you specifically asked about by the number 1 bullet, that has multiple feet of storage in it. And probably should have used different colors. That first graphic on the left was just intended to show sheet flow, like it's different than the actual pond storage. I can see why that would be confusing.
And it looks like when you showed it to us in the meeting we had, I didn't.
No, very good question. Good point on the color scheme there. Understand why that was confusing. And I had one more slide, I think. While we're looking for that slide, I can summarize it even if we don't find it, and that was the difference between single-family and multifamily project benefits associated with going with townhomes. Again, in this case, we were removing the 4.5 acres of off-site drainage from the roadways that are currently being impacted. One of the residents actually mentioned it. The site is very narrow, which fits for townhomes. Single-family home magic number is about 120 feet deep. Townhomes are nowhere near that deep. That leaves a lot of extra space left over for stormwater management that wouldn't be the case on single-family. That would be a much longer, narrow pond that we were just looking at. Improved water quality. This is a little bit counterintuitive, but what we see just basically from designing multiple single-family and multiple townhome projects is with single-family, you have a significant amount of more backyards that all the individual homeowners going for yard of the month like to fertilize, and that doesn't happen nearly as much on townhomes. So it's a lot less fertilized area, a lot bigger ponds, which means more water quality treatment before the ultimate discharge to Lake Thomas.
If I could, real quick, you could probably answer, Barbara. Since you're right there, I know the one gentleman brought up, and this is part of our purview today, making decision off the change in density, as far as the flooding, and I know he mentioned, the one gentleman said, are you doing the same thing Swift Mud's going to make you do, or are you doing additional? So if you could answer that, I'm assuming it is additional, but,
Yeah, I was just going to answer, that's what.
and I know
same
it's
thought.
not necessarily,
Yeah, I got it.
but it is too.
No,
So.
yeah, Barbara Wilhite, I did take to heart what he said, which was whatever I said I didn't mean. I didn't do mean what I say. You know, we did our golf course Quail Hollow project, and we said we were going to do more, and we worked with the homeowners, and that project's been permitted, and we did more. We went to an MPUD in this case, as away from a Euclidean zoning that we had on file, so that we could lock down those commitments. So when we say we're going to do more, we are going to do more. And every commitment number, all 12 of those commitments, we've already drafted the MPUD conditions, we've given them to staff, we've given them to the neighbors. So we're committed to making sure that what we say we do. I would never stand before here with the client and say we're going to do something and not do it, so. And we don't have to do it. This property is already zoned for homes, 2.2 units per acre. So a lot of the things that you hear that are concerning, lake access, it's unrestricted lake access right now. So I'm a little puzzled as to why anybody on the lake would come and oppose our zoning, when as a matter of right, there can be lake access. Hundreds of people, motorized boats can use their lake. This client is bringing forth this project and will restrict that. So I'm going to have Alexis come up, Alexis Crespo, our planner, and go over some of the Res 3 versus Res 6 issues, and then I'll come back and address the specific comments quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Alexis Crespo with Waldrop Engineering. I am a land use planner, and I did just want to touch on some of the comprehensive plan amendment specifics here in discussion regarding compatibility and the requested density. We are in agreement with your staff that the proposed Res 6 density is appropriate at this location, and it is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies in your adopted comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan talks to directing new growth to areas where you have invested in your public infrastructure. We are located along a 6-lane arterial roadway with water, sewer, schools, parks and rec, all the types of infrastructure you've invested in as a community to allow for this type of development. And along those lines, your comprehensive plan speaks frequently to compact and infill development and redevelopment patterns, and we understand we have to be very careful and conscientious with those types of proposals because we have established neighborhoods around us, but certainly your comprehensive plan looks to development to do this in order to direct growth in those areas you want to see it. And I just want to touch on that spot comp plan comment because you can see from this slide, which is very similar to Erica's slide, this is not solely a Res 3 area. This is a dynamic node when Tower Road comes through at 41, where you have a mix of future land use categories. You have ROR along the frontage, which allows densities of 24 units per acre. Part of our properties is designated 24 units per acre. You have Res 6 across the roadway as well as Res 9 and commercial. This proposal will allow for a transition and a step down of density from that intensive ROR frontage, stepping down to the Res 3 further to our west. And then through our MPUD, which will become in sync with this application at the time of adoption, will provide all the compatibility and transition in those details of the MPUD plan and conditions. Your comprehensive plan is not a static document. It's been amended. We looked 240 times between adoption in the late 80s and 2013. One of the key changes came out of the ULI study dating back to 2008, where they really looked at the growth that was happening in Pasco County and better ways of directing this growth in areas where you're investing in infrastructure, areas where you want to see that growth occur. We are within the central market area, which was adopted into the comprehensive plan as part of that ULI-driven study. And this area was intended for suburban development. 6 units per acre and certainly 4.8 units per acre is entirely consistent with suburban character. This is a clustered development pattern. It's an area that is well served by existing roads as well as planned roadways, so we are very consistent with the intent for this area. Along those lines, there are improvements ongoing to Sun Lake Boulevard, US 41, along the frontage of the property. If you've traveled it recently, sidewalks are being installed, it's being repaved. And then there's also significant roadway improvements underway. Most notably, Tower Road extension to our north is going to make this intersection a key node for the central market area. That's just 1/10 of a mile to our north. They're installing that Orange Belt Trail to provide even greater connectivity in this area. So clearly an intent by the county to invest and direct new growth along the corridor. We also noted on this slide your Ridge Road extension, which is a future arterial, again getting network and connectivity, as well as improvements to 41 and State Road 52. This is evidenced by the development pattern in the area where you've approved numerous large master plan area communities in the area, also indicative of this being a key growth corridor within the county. We are running short on time, and I know Barbara wants to do some concluding comments. We have talked at length about zoning level details. I don't want to belabor the conversation, but we've worked in 12 conditions into the MPUD, which we hope to bring back to you at adoption, that addresses the concerns of the neighborhood in terms of sensitive site design, buffering, limiting lake access, and we look forward to bringing that to you then. And I'll turn it over to Barbara.
Question number 4, it says committed no boat access to Lake Thomas.
Yes, sir.
The last lady speaking actually made mention that there's another parcel that didn't line up with what you guys had submitted. Can you address that?
The next slide is the board.
So yes, Commissioner, that was Ms. Sanner, who lives on the south in Preserve at Lake Thomas, and her question was about these inconsistencies. Our project has changed over time. We changed our project significantly, and the client bought new parcels. We didn't have the parcel that was the lakefront in the zoning or in the comp plan because we were doing Euclidean zoning. But when we moved to the MPUD, when we had citizen concerns and we were going to condition and we were going to restrict our boat access, we moved to the MPUD and we added the parcel so that then we could then restrict himself. If he left it the way it was, there would be no restriction on boat access, so he included it in. So all of those changes that you have regarding acreages were changes that we made so that we would restrict ourselves even more. So that was the intent. That's why we did that. And I'd be glad to go through with her and show her those things.
I have a question. How old is the preserve at Lake Thomas? I'm trying to look it up. Do you know when that was developed? See if I can.
do not.
Driveway, sidewalk, 2000, well, I clicked on a parcel, I see 2001, a house, okay. I did see a mobile home park right next door. This kind of wraps around one. And I counted up how many mobile homes were in there, and I counted, I think, 60 on 10 acres, so what is that? I mean, is that a Res
60
6?
on 10,
Or,
yes,
I
it's
mean,
just
how do you
over.
know how many, I mean, it looks like they could add even more on there, so how do we know how dense that parcel could be? I don't know how to look that up on here.
Is that the parcel to our east?
It's kind of, you guys wrap around it?
Right.
Yeah.
Bambi
Circle?
Right.
Couldn't you buy that?
Well, you know what happens when you have investment and follows investment? You guys make your investments, and actually, I noted that, Catherine, Commissioner Starker, you'll find this interesting. There's a sidewalk that's just so happens being constructed from our front door all the way to Gator Lane, where the school complex is. That's already an investment that you're making. You realize there's going to be children wanting to walk to school along that route. So investment follows investment, and I hope that, and I know and hope that the area will change because of the investment that this developer wants to make. Couple comments.
You mean improve, when you say change?
Right.
Yeah.
The project, we've heard stay with Res 3, stay with Res 3, that's what we all approved. Well, that was in 1989, and I think there's a significant thing that happened in 2008 and 2010. This county went through an exercise and brought ULI in, independent consultants, to help the county, how do you want to grow, where do you want to grow? So we are not back in 1989. In 2010, you adopted the central market area. This project is exactly what you said you wanted when you adopted that plan. It's townhome to town, it's single family to single family. The only difference is attached versus detached. The benefit that you get when you efficiently use land is what you'll see up here. Through this process, we've actually adding more restrictions than what can happen today. So we're taking there's a property that's zoned for 2.2 units per acre, and we're making all of these restrictions when we go to the zoning. So we have single family is allowed today, charter schools are allowed today as a matter of right, and townhomes is what we're proposing. We're going from fee simple to fee simple. It's just folks that don't want to have a yard and they want it to be commonly maintained. Think about that. So we had concerns about rentals, but townhomes are commonly maintained. Common architecture, common open space, common amenity. Right now, under our current zoning, we can put all, and I know why we don't have any of the residents here that actually are our neighbors on Marsh Hawk, other than Ms. Sander and Ms. Schmidt, because we are a much better situation for those neighbors under our proposal. Right now, anybody else could come in, and not this developer, but another developer, and put homes with pools within 5 feet of their property line with no buffer. We're proposing a pond along that location, a 100-foot building setback. We're proposing not to have homes in our backyard, not to have pools in our backyards. We're going to have a common amenity. Right now, I'm kind of surprised that the Schmidts are not concerned, but and they've come and objected because they're adjacent to us in the preserve at Lake Thomas, and under their current zoning, our amenity, the amenity can be located right there on the lake. And we can have unrestricted boat access, hundreds of people, motorized, non-motorized. Current situation, zoning today is a matter of right. So when you look at what you can achieve by going through a compact form of development and centralizing the amenity and taking it out of the backyards, commonly maintaining common architecture, there's a lot of reasons why your comp plan said in this area we want to see compact development. It solves the drainage issue. If you go single family homes, you take up more property and you use more property for homes and yards, and there's less property for drainage. Right now, under the current zoning, along Thomas Circle, Little Lake Thomas, and the preserve at Lake Thomas, no buffers. The code already says that single family to single family, whether it's detached or attached, is a compatible use and doesn't require any buffers. This project is committing to buffers. So in the end of the day, you have a project where you have this developer has said he's going to restrict boat access, where the property can be developed today with hundreds of people, community docks, not just one dock, 2 docks, but having the neighborhood can use a dock. It can be developed that way today. So surprises me when I have some of the neighbors that are still having concerns regarding our project when the impact to them will be so much less. There were 98 total at the meeting. You have 8 neighbors here today. We have 21 adjacencies, and 3 houses spoke. Two people spoke today, and they're on the south side of the lake. So let me just point out a couple other things. This is where you've made a lot of investment. You're continuing to make investment in infrastructure. It's where you're supposed to have your density. It's where your comp plan says you have your density. Townhomes are compatible with single-family attached and single-family detached, coexist all over the place and just fine. The folks you hear from Little Lake Thomas Road, they're concerned. They are neighbors and they are adjacent. But what we did is we took our access off of Little Lake Thomas Road and we put it on 41. The client bought more property, so his project is now on US 41, a 6-lane arterial. The project is oriented to US 41. They'll come and go from US 41. We've added extra buffers to Thomas Circle and Little Lake Thomas. So the folks that buy the new houses that are townhomes that are commonly maintained and have common amenities, they will orient their day-to-day lives to US 41 and the US 41 corridor. We are not spot zoning. We are not intruding. We are on a road where your comp plan says where you should put the density. And by the way, the density is 4.8. The comp plan says 3. We only have a choice between 3 and 6. So 6 is the next logical, is the next land use available. The other thing I wanted to do is just, I received an email when I sent out my email last week trying to get residents and get to explain to them what can happen under the current zoning. And I received a quick response from Ms. Ballara, who lives in the preserve at Lake Thomas and has a home on beautiful Lake Thomas. And it sums up what we've accomplished through this developer, working with the neighbors of the project. The neighbors who understand what can be developed under the existing zoning in their backyards and right across the street from them, and how that could impact their homes and their enjoyment of Lake Thomas. And I want to leave you with her statement. Thank you. You have really addressed our concerns.
I wanted,
Okay, it's to the board.
well, when we transmit to, if we transmit today, do these requirements go with it, or is that for
No.
future? Okay,
These are-
because I have
There are no
something I wanna bring
sub-area
up later.
policies
Okay.
in this, so all of this would be talked about by the board in the MPUD.
Okay. Well, so now it's to us. So I look at this and I see it, I think commissioners asked this to be into the central market area. We wanted to bring that growth up the 41 corridor. We all know what's coming right behind it with Angeline and Moffett. And I have so many friends who want to live in a townhome with no maintenance. That's just really, maybe it's the aging baby boomer thing. But I look at this and I see it as a transitional piece, and I am in support. I think you've gone way overboard and really addressed a bunch of the needs. And when we get to the next meeting, there's one here that I actually want to loosen up a little bit. But I've not driven on this road over here, but I will go drive on it. What is it, Little Lake Thomas Road, or?
Correct.
But I do see that you're going to have the Orange Belt Trail going right by there, and be a great amenity for this community. I think lots of times people, it's not nearly as bad as you think it is, and it's going to have, all of this will be maintained by a professional lawn maintenance company or landscape company, and I think the buffering is excellent, and so I would move to approve.
Second. Okay, any other board discussion? We got a motion and a second?
Yeah, just more discussion if we could, but I'll defer to Commissioner Oakley first.
He seconded.
I seconded it already.
But I'll defer to you to talk for it
Did
first.
you want to say anything else, or?
No, that's all right. I understand where we're on it.
Go ahead.
I mean,
Commissioner.
and again, folks, it's not a rezoning, it is land use. And I know this whole conversation is all about rezoning. The concessions that we're hearing right now, obviously, we're going to be listening to real close to the next step up. As much as, you get a 6-lane highway out there, the density should be along the highway. The access is going to be to the highway. They're protecting the lake dramatically, and they're also protecting that road access going in. I don't think, as Commissioner Stark, it's not ideal for best planning, but I think to call it an infill development, the conditions that are in here, I think, are minimizing the effect that's going to go on here.
Well, and if I could, I'm with some of the residents with the issues with traffic, with swift mud, that's why I brought it up. I mean, ultimately, in the past, and I can only go off of the 5 years I've been a commissioner, anytime that you've sat in front of us, this body, and said, we are going to do this and work with the residents, you have, in my opinion, gone above and beyond, and I have no doubt you do the same here, so I'm in favor of it as well. So with that, we'll call for a vote.
Can I just ask one more question, just to Barbara? Barbara, on, I think Coil Hollow, we looked at a 25-year storm event. That's what swift mud's requirements are. Have you looked at the 100-year event here, or could you look at it by the time we get back to bring it back to us?
That was a drainage question, Joe. Could you ask it again?
Okay. The swift mud requirements, I believe, are a 25-year storm event. Could you look and factor in what the 100-year storm event, when this would come back to the next step for us?
We will actually have to do both. We're held
You have
to
to
a
do both? Okay.
discharge rate of 25-year, 24-hour, but they'll make sure we look at the 100-year because that falls under one of those bullets that said no adverse off-site drainage or on-site.
Okay.
So they make us run the 100-year to demonstrate that.
Okay.
That's standard.
Chance of a 100-year floodplain happening event? is 0.5%.
And I have a question after the
Any
vote
chance?
for Barbara. Call the question?
Barbara, if I may, one
Yes.
question. So this is transmittal. It goes up to DEO. It comes back for an ordinance adoption. Are you running your MPUD at the same time as you're running your comp plan? Are they going to be in the same hearing?
Yes, we will. We'll do, if the MPD's ready, I don't see Tammy here, then we will come forward on, I think it's April 7th, that you just continue today for adoption. If the MPUD is not ready, then we will continue the adoption hearing, so they will come together.
So the board will have the opportunity to make sure that these conditions are applied to the, you'll get the zoning at the same time as as you're going to be asked to adopt the comprehensive
That's
plan.
correct.
Did you call the vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries.
I have a question. I have two questions. So, looking more closely at this lake, your property line appears to be going over someone's house, and the Thurbers, and I don't know if you've looked at that, but looking at it here on the property appraiser site, there might be a problem there. It also looks like there's a house built on the lake, which I was wondering how that happened. But what are the rules for clearing lakefront? Do you know those? Clearing away the natural vegetation on this lake?
I do not know
Have a
those.
swift mud permit.
Yeah, so when you go for your boardwalk, yeah.
They'll
But
have to, they'll have to have a swift
I'm
mud
sure there are some rules
We'll
for
have to
clearing
permit for our
vegetation.
boardwalk.
Yes. Okay, well, just, you got a little challenge right there, I think.
They have met with SwiftMud and spoke with SwiftMud and your Natural Resources Department, but those are the details we'll keep working on between now and we come back.
Okay. I'm going to ask Keith Wiley what the rules are. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do we? Okay, we're going to go back to regular agenda items. I will wait for everybody to leave, but R5, right?
Well, you didn't do 4.
I thought we did. Oh, you're right, okay. I'm sure.
I live around there. There's a elementary school just south.
Is it, Sanders, yeah, it's south?
I was thinking the high school is north, Sanders is south. And the intersection of
Folks, we're still in session.
really busy
Yeah.
during
I think
school
there's
time.
improvements and all that coming.
That's
Well,
good.
that's why I wanted to keep people off of 41. You don't want them all going.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
But, you know, this road needs to be improved, maybe we need to improve it. Hey, Jeff, did you see that picture I sent you? That's a freaking house on the lake.
You sure it's not the boathouse?
It's a very nice
I'm
building.
saying it's
R4, is that you, Chief?
boathouse, it's a
R4?
house.
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Do you need anything from R4? We're kind of going on here.
No,
I
I'm
don't want
good.
to bother you. Okay, just
I'm
make sure.
good with our.
Go ahead,
Pride
gentlemen.
is important, too.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. Scott Casson, Pasco County Fire Rescue Fire Chief. I have with me also today Division Chief Tim Reardon, who was instrumental in this particular project. So one thing that we like to do at Fire Rescue, at least from the fire rescue perspective, is to continually look for ways to improve the quality of life in Pasco County and the health of its citizens. And one statistic that we found very alarming was the fact that over 1,000 people every single day across the country die of sudden cardiac arrest. And of those 1,000, only about a third actually receive bystander CPR prior to fire rescue arriving. So one of the things that we discovered almost 3 years ago now is a new tool that's aimed at helping improve that number of 1/3. And that tool is called Pulse Point Respond. And what that is, it's an app that will download onto your phone. It's available for iPhone users and also Android phone users. And it's free. And the way it works is that it allows the citizen who is trained in CPR and is willing to do so, they download this app right onto their phone free of charge. They sign up, and then whenever there is a cardiac arrest emergency within the general vicinity of where they're at, it's typically about a quarter mile or they say walking distance, in a public place, then their phone will be alerted through this app. And this app is designed in such a way that the alert will actually override any privacy or do not disturb features of the phone. So no matter what setting you have it on, you'll be alerted with an audible tone, and you'll be notified of where the emergency is. And what's really nice about the app is that as soon as the alert comes across the phone, it gives you an option then to navigate to where that emergency is. So even if you don't know where it's at, it'll tell you where it's at in a public place. It also provides a lot of additional information, such as whether or not there's a defibrillator, automated external defibrillator available nearby. Like in a public facility such as this, we have them on all 4 floors. And a couple other features that are included in the app that are helpful. One is a CPR cadence feature. So if you have been trained in CPR, but it may have been a while since you had that training, it actually will pace the rhythm at the speed at which you should be doing compressions. It also shows you the last 100 incidents that have occurred in Pasco County. So you can be alerted through the settings in the phone or in the app to be alerted for not just cardiac arrest emergencies, but any type of emergency, such as a structure fire or, more importantly, like in Pasco County, for example, wildfire that may be in your area. You can set these settings up ahead of time and then be alerted when there's one nearby. There's also an additional feature that we'll be able to use from the fire rescue perspective. It's called the Verified First Responder Program. And we have roughly 800 or so members of our organization that all wear this patch, and they will be elevated and get additional information once they sign up for the app as well. That'll give them just some, like I said, additional information on whatever they're going to be responding to. It also increases the diameter of the radius to which they may respond. They do have a couple of companion apps. One of them is called an AED locator. So if you know of an AED in a public building that hasn't been mapped yet, you can be the first one to tag that. You take a little picture, you tell us where it's at, and then our team here will go out and we'll verify that that AED is a good AED and then available. And then it will come up in the app in the event of an emergency. So that's pretty much it. And I totally forgot to slide through the slides, but there's really only one, so it's easy. Pardon me, I got carried away. So there it is. So there's those of you that have the printed packet. I don't know if you can scan the TV or not, but you can just take a picture of that QR code and it'll actually take you to the website where you can download the app. The good news is the app is 100% up and running. It is available right now as we speak. And I believe roughly nationwide there's about 2 million total users currently today. We are one of the first counties, or first jurisdictions actually, in Central Florida to have this new tool available to the citizens. I think Polk, Orange, and Alachua to the north are probably the closest counties to us that already have this program. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to a bunch of people that made this happen. Obviously, our chief here and his entire team on our side. But there was a lot of technology upgrades, or a lot of technology pieces that had to be put in place in the backside. So, kudos to our IT department, our 911 communication center, because they clearly have a big component. And most importantly, the commissioners, and specifically Commissioner Mariano, who supported the program from day one, like I said, about 3 years ago.
Just get in.
Oh, yeah. See, that's why it took me 3 minutes to do this presentation, so you all had time to download it. I see everybody's on their phone, so.
But I downloaded the app.
See?
The app, I'm trying, I am certified in CPR, I gotta make sure,
See, there you go. It does work. We tried it. We've done a number of tests. Chief Reardon actually had the pleasure of the actual first one. Yeah, he had it live on his phone before we all did, and he actually had an emergency down the street from his house. a few weeks ago, so it does work. And I believe that is it. We did do a press release earlier. We were going to invite you all out to lunch, but that kind of got messed up with the extended warning. But we did do the press release this morning, so it should be
Free
should be
lunch?
out.
Why are you just now mentioning free lunch? I didn't.
Yeah.
Not extended.
Yeah, we only went over 5 minutes. I mean, come on. I wish that excuse worked for me.
My clock was a little different, I guess.
Okay, 10 minutes.
Well, they were under a time crunch to get out of here anyway, so we did a little bit of sound pieces. So you should be able to see that. Should be out tonight. We've already put it on our website announcing the tool. So
Awesome.
anyway, thank you all again. Appreciate your time. Anybody have any questions before I take off?
Commissioner Mariano?
I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for carrying this idea through. That came one of our citizens to bring it forward and just stay with it, and Dan for helping it go through the budget process to make sure it was getting in there and to get this done. It's a great asset for our citizens, so great job.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, R5. Sorry you had to hang out all day, Mike. But this is important, too. So, just saying.
Yes, it is, and actually, it's a happy note, so that's a
pretty
good thing to
awesome.
end on, right? So I'm Mike Shoemate, Director of Pasco County Animal Services, and I have with me Spencer Conover, our Assistant Director. He's also the narrator in the video that you'll see presently. And we're here for R5. It's just a presentation of Pasco County Animal Services attaining the goal of Save 90 in 2019. We've been striving for this for quite some time. And as most of you know, your predecessors on the board back in 2012 of November voted to change the way we do business out at Animal Services. They took a high-kill shelter and turned it into a no-kill shelter. And we've been trying to attain that goal. It's not an easy thing to do. It's taken a lot of programs, a lot of partnerships, a lot of participation with the community, a lot of volunteers, and we've finally done it. So we're very proud of that. We had some staff here earlier this morning celebrating with us, but we did have a good time with that. And I think for them, the recognition really comes from all the faces of the people that they adopt the animals to every day. And of course, just knowing that they've saved all those lives. Just to put this in perspective, in 2012, I want to give you a couple statistics. The intake, the number of animals we took into the shelter was 8,091. Out of those 8,091, 3,876 were euthanized. That's only a 52% live release rate. So in 2019, we took in 6,407, but only 367 were euthanized for medical, severe medical or behavioral concerns. None for space, none for time. So we've worked hard to get to this position where we can present Pasco with a shelter they can be very proud of. It's a place where people actually come and enjoy walking through the kennels and trying to make selections for dogs and cats, and we really appreciate it. I'd like to show you a quick video just on our journey to Save 90. So.
Hello, I'm Spencer Conover, Assistant Director of Pasco County Animal Services. Since 2012, we've been on a mission with our Save 90 program, an ambitious goal set by our Board of County Commissioners to save the lives of at least 90% of the animals who walk through our shelter doors. Today, I am thrilled to announce for the first time in our history, Pasco County Animal Services had an overall live release rate of 91% in 2019. Success like this doesn't happen by accident. We're proud of the programs and partnerships our Pasco County Animal Services staff and volunteers work tirelessly to create. And we're thankful to you, our customers, for making the most of programs that help us responsibly control our pet population. With the support of the Board of County Commissioners and our community, we've grown along the way, and we're making a measurable impact. We've added a visitor-friendly new adoption center in 2012 to make the most of the space where you get to meet our adoptable pets. Our SNP low-cost spay and neuter program and trap and release efforts have resulted in almost 20,000 spay and neuter surgeries to date. In 2019 alone, we've served 6,407 animals at our Land O'Lakes shelter, including more than 1,800 rescue transfers. Our dedicated animal control officers responded to 9,037 service calls in our community. And our volunteers donated over 21,000 hours of service, a truly incredible amount. Thank you for supporting and empowering us as we strive every day to give our very best to serve the people and pets of Pasco County. While we're extremely proud to reach this goal, we understand our mission is far from complete. Please visit www.mypasco.net to learn how you can support Pasco County Animal Services and truly make a difference for our local pets. Together, we can save 90.
So a lot of those amenities that you saw out at the shelter were actually donated.
Nice.
So we've had that donated from some national organizations, state organizations, and our own Friends of Animal Services has donated quite a few of those play yards and things like that. So it really gives the animals an opportunity for more enrichment, makes them a lot happier, healthier, and gets them out the door a lot quicker. And that's what we're all about out there, is to save those lives. So I'd like to also thank you, the board, for your support, because without you guys giving us the extra people and funds, we would never have been able to do this. And I'd like to also thank Kathy, who's been a strong advocate for us. We appreciate her, and Dan as well, for what he's been doing with all the leadership team. So, and of course, the video, we have an awesome, media relations department that puts these things together for us, and they do a lot more videos for us out there that we can put out on Facebook and social media. So, thank you very much.
Chairman? Commissioner Mariano?
I'd just like to say, Mike, since the time you walked in the door and took control of this and put that commitment to go through and try to take care of the animals, which is helping a lot of the people in this county, has been absolutely phenomenal. Years ago, we had some pretty hotly contested meetings that we're going through about what we're going to do, how we're going to handle it. And Kathy, I mean, your leadership's been great with us every step of the way as well. That goal of 90% compared to where we were was just audacious. To actually come through and just deliver it. And I'll just go to a quick story. The reason I found out about it was we were taking care of another constituent through an unfortunate situation that these guys bent over backwards, saved the day, took care of this lady, made the whole neighborhood, the whole world probably a lot happier. And even the people that were getting flexible, they got a lot of joy, and we saved another animal as well. So you probably even go up to 92% now when you factor it all in. But again, your dedication for the whole team, the spirit that goes in that whole place is amazing between the volunteers, the employees. You're just doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
And I just want to hearken y'all back to when Commissioner Mallory sat right here and would bring her dogs to the meeting and put them even on the dais. So, Commissioner Walls, I'm very glad you do not bring your dog into the meeting. We would go down and take photos with the dogs, and some of them didn't smell so great, actually. Yeah. So it's a new day with Animal Services. Thank you very much.
I know, Mike, I appreciate everything you've done since I've been here. It's just been a little over 3 years, but there's been a big difference in the last 3 years coming to this point. So I know you used to get all those calls, and I know they wore you out. So it's a tough road that you had to come to this, but you got it here, and I appreciate everything you and your staff, everybody's done to get us to this point. So
thank you. Appreciate it.
Just another part of being a premier county is animal services come up like you are. So
absolutely.
I don't know if you remember, we used to get inundated with with your activists, with emails and calls, and it's really quieted down, so thank you.
Yeah. Most of them are working for us now, so.
That's
right.
Do we need to do anything with it?
Well, I've got a
Are we doing
resolution.
the resolution?
Okay. Resolution number 20-081, a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, commending Pasco County Animal Services for their exceptional work in achieving the goal of Save 90 for 2019. Whereas on November 12, 2012, the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners voted unanimously to transition Pasco County Animal Services from an enforcement-oriented division operating a high-kill shelter to a community-based Save 90 program to save the lives of as many shelter animals as possible with the goal of a 90% live release rate. And whereas to meet the goals of the Save 90 program, Animal Services initiated programs such as Spay Neuter in Pasco, or SNP, to address pet overpopulation by offering subsidized spay-neuter programs for low-income and qualified families to sterilize their pets, and a trap, neuter, vaccinate, return, TNVR program to sterilize and vaccinate community or feral cats throughout Pasco County. These programs, supported by pet licensing fees, grants, and donations, have accounted for the sterilization of 19,872 dogs and cats over the last 7 years. And whereas prior to the Save 90 program, the Medical Services Division consisted of only 1 veterinarian and 2 veterinarian techs, and often performed less than 30 spay-neuter surgeries per week. Today, the Medical Services Division has 2 full-time veterinarians, 1 supervisor, 5 veterinarian technicians, and 1 veterinarian assistant who perform over 150 surgeries per week, including over 3,000 unique medical treatments, which include vaccinations, tests, exams, evaluations, and other medical treatments. This highly functioning team also conducts a weekly low-cost vaccine clinic, which is open to the public. And whereas the Field Services Division's duties have expanded beyond the animal control to include an emphasis on providing customer service, humane education, and resolving community conflicts regarding pets, and created a multi-agency hoarding work task force to quickly respond to reports of animal hoarding. And whereas the Field Services Division has also acquired their first certified humane investigator who actively responds to reports of animal abuse, neglect, and cruelty. The division routinely conducts over 750 animal control investigations and over 150 bite investigations per month. And whereas over the last 6 years, team members have been recognized as the 2018 Leader of the Year for Pasco County, Animal Control Officer of the Year for the Florida Animal Control Association in 2014 and 2019, and has produced 8 graduates of the Pasco County Leadership Development Program. And whereas the volunteer program at Animal Services has grown to 357 active members who provided 21,765 hours of services in 2019. Also this past year, the Rescue Partners for Animal Services rehomed a record 1,818 pets. Animal Services also received great community support from over 1,000 foster families who provided nurturing care and support to kittens and sick or injured dogs and cats. Once healthy, these pets were made available for adoption or rescue. And whereas the Education and Outreach Coordinator routinely coordinates adoption events, hosts shelter tours, and conducts educational presentations at civic organizations, schools, and job fairs. In particular, the Education and Outreach Coordinator has transformed the image of the shelter and created a positive public perception through creative, informative, and uplifting social media programming. And whereas the Shelter Services team maintains a clean, comfortable, and safe environment for the lost, stray, and unwanted pets of Pasco County, as well as provides enrichment opportunities that includes playground activities for shelter dogs. And whereas the methods, policies, and care provided by the Pasco County Animal Services team is quickly being recognized by national animal welfare organizations as a premier municipal shelter to model best practices for their shelters. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, that said board hereby recognizes the achievements and dedication of the Animal Services team in attaining the goal of Save 90 program for reaching the overall live release rate of 91% of all pets coming into the shelter in 2019. Done and resolved in regular session with a quorum present and voting this 18th day of February 2020.
Move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Well, I think we do all the accolades again, or just go take a picture.
That was
But
a long way.
Absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal work.
As you guys are coming out, I wanted to mention, Mike had mentioned to me in my ear, this weekend is the Florida Animal Control Association Conference, and during that conference they do an awards ceremony. They have 6 categories for awards. Pasco County Animal Services has been chosen as a finalist for all 6 categories, including Agency of the Year, Officer of the Year, Employee of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, and Supervisor of the Year.
By the way, Spencer, what's your degree in?
Telecommunications and sports journalism.
Working
Are you
well.
related to another conifer? Are you related to another conifer in the county?
No. I get that all the time, though.
Yeah. He's a good friend of a lot of us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Super duper job, guys.
Here, you hold the second finger. All right. Oh, we getting you?
Oh, you want me to stand over here?
Because he keeps tagging. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think so.
That's all I'm
Yeah,
asking.
they took it off, it ran out of time. So if we get out of here, I can get some color on there. I got colonial hills. Woohoo!
Okay, now we'll move on to old business, starting with Commissioner Oakley.
Yes, sir. I continue getting good calls back on customer service through different departments and the staff that we have working for us, and Mr. Biles, I appreciate that and pass that on to all the staff that appreciate all the hard work they're doing, and it does make a difference when we're professional about what we do in this county, so, and I continue hearing just that, good reports, so I appreciate it. Yesterday at Tampa Bay Water, I was elected vice chairman of Tampa Bay Water for this coming 2 years, I guess. We vote each year, but 2 years. So. But I look forward to serving in that capacity. And for the 9th year, our water
Water rates.
water rate stays the same. So it's good for our residents. And the regional water system, Tampa Bay Water and all, has been good for Pasco County. So we've got a lot to be appreciative of the fact that we're in that region and we're looking out for the future. So with all our growth, we need that too. So yesterday, the Pasco County Fair started. So a lot of people were out that day and they had a few events. I sponsored the milk-off competition. And if you'll notice over in front of Commissioner Mariano, which won 4th place, I think that was only because I didn't milk cows.
And I
just
wasn't there,
Probably.
No, I could never win an award at milking a cow. Wouldn't happen. So, but a lot of activities going on this week. If anybody, everybody gets a chance to get out there, a lot of animals, a lot of things happening, and a lot of residents. You see it more on the east side because it's located on the east side, but it's for all of Pasco County. So it's your fair, and a lot of things happening there. A lot of good educational items coming before them, and kids working with animal projects and plant projects and different things of that nature. It's something that's been going on for many, many years. So we continue. We also have a building coming up there for our IFAS, and it's coming along real fine. And I think Ms. Pearson heard that it was going to be done maybe in April. So, which that's all good stuff. But a lot of good things happening in the county, and it continues to happen. And with all of our growth and all, that's really great. So we're going to get there to be that premier county. So that last little step's tough. So it just keeps moving. Every time something happens, we come up and somehow we come out on top and make it better. So, all right, that's all I have.
Okay, so as I told you, we're kind of working on a transportation summit. Right now, it's kind of set for tentative for the 27th and 28th Personally, I think that's a bad time to have a summit. I think it's smack dab in the hottest time of the year and maybe, hurricane time. So I will suggest that we move it later, but it's Janet Long's the chair, and so we'll see how that goes. I wanted to let you know that, and I don't think I spoke about this at the last meeting, that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has been working on filling the talent pipeline, workforce development. And they started this project in Dallas and maybe another city. And then the second round included the city of Tampa. Tampa, working with the Tampa Bay Partnership, they looked at what were the key industries here and then they wanted to focus that down on two because they looked at IT, healthcare, manufacturing. I don't remember the other ones, but they ended up selecting manufacturing and healthcare as the top two areas to focus on filling the talent pipeline. And then they brought together a consortium of manufacturers from around the Tampa Bay area, from Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough County. Included companies like Jabil and Nielsen and Honeywell and Lockheed Martin to some smaller ones. Peter Brzezinski from FarmerWorks is part of the consortium, or I think they call it the collaborative. And then that collaborative, they hired a person to run this, and they looked at different kind of training opportunities and how they were going to do this, and they settled on AmSkills. And so then they hired AmSkills to develop a one-day training program and a 2-week boot camp, which they pulled off in the last 2 weeks down in Pinellas County, and it was such a huge, smashing success. The companies couldn't believe it because they normally go to job fairs, and I see other counties advertising job fairs all the time, but they said that's a very hit and miss in manufacturing. It's very it's just not a good way for them to get employees, and that this was the best way they've ever seen for them to help bring in new employees. So Tom has texted me. They had a meeting today, and he says good news. But we think that we're going to be rolling this concept out around the Tampa Bay area. The next one would be in Pasco County, and CareerSource has funding for it, and Tampa Bay Partnership as well. So I'm really excited about the growth and maturation and the good, what's the word? Well, the good, gosh, I can't even think of the word. The good reputation that AmSkills is building in the Tampa Bay area. So let's see what else. Then we have the NACO conferences coming up, February 29th to March 4th. Reminder, I'm having surgery Friday, so I will not be at T-BARTA. Danny's going to go in my place, but I don't know if we're allowed to have another commissioner go if I can't, and that's something we should find out. Then next week, I still haven't been able to move my doctor's appointment that's at 10 on the day of our workshop. And I very much want to be part of the discussion of the multifamily and I can't remember all the topics that we're having, but I want to be there. But I have to go get this cotton ball taken, that's going to be sewed to my nose, taken off. So, but then I will, my appointment's at 10, I can be back here at 11.
So we'll start it after lunch then.
Okay.
We definitely.
Or you could start at 11.
No, ma'am.
Work through lunch?
I would recommend we just start at 1.
Okay. Then I'll be going to NACO from Hawaii, where my son-in-law's having his pinning ceremony, so I have to fly all the way out there for 2 nights. Take a red-eye overnight to get to D.C., so I'll miss the first 2, but Danny will be sitting in with me, for me, because I do chair the International Economic Development. We have a great lineup, Jack. I don't know if you're free at 10:45 on Monday, but we have the Small Business Administration coming in, and some people from, the Small Business Administration, Select USA, State International Development Organization, and the former Global Markets Advisor, and then a commissioner from Clackamas County talking about their economic development. So that's what I got going on. I think that's
Okay,
it.
Commissioner Mariano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got some good news yesterday. We've got our first craft brewery coming up in Hudson. It was
What?
a craft brewery.
Oh, nice.
A gentleman had one in Land Lake, shut it down, brought one over here, and it was a long battle to go through to get it. So I'm going to encourage Mr. Bowles, as we've talked about, trying to work with Chief Casson about trying to find out how the others can permit it so easy and how we struggle so much with it. There's got to be a way. I mean, there was a magazine called Influence where it had a picture of the governor on it, had an article in there. It showed a whole bunch of different ones that were permitted, approved, et cetera. And this operation, if you see the pictures up there, this is a small little operation where that little gizmo there plugs into a thing that's a heater. It's kind of like a coffee pot. With that, they wanted to put a firewall initially around the whole structure, down like 20 feet here, 30 feet there, and would have killed the whole ambiance of the place and everything else. Others have done it. We've got the Escape Brewery, which I went down to see actually Sunday night when he told me about it, to have our meeting Monday morning before the Pasco Fair. I went down there to look at it just to see what they had, and they got giant vats that were there that were wide open and safe. And they've got them all over the state. So I want to make sure that we start looking at this and then kind of relook at what our procedures are right now, how we're permitting this, because if others can get it done through the state regulations, we should be able to do the same. The project right there, you see that's on Sea Ranch. We had a little spill from hydraulic leak early one morning with Republic. Republic went out, worked very close with John Batista, our consultant. It was absolutely phenomenal to work with and negotiate with. We got Republic to pay for the 2.5 roads that were damaged. No charge to the citizens. They were done in like 3 days.
Huh?
It was phenomenal. Ajax did a great job coordinating with another project that was in the area to make it all happen. So I'll tell you, Dan, whenever we can bring John Batista in for some rate as a full-time employee, let's bring him in. He's a classic person that just got it done. I mean, literally, he looked for solutions and he kept going and going and going and found a way to make it happen. Next pictures, I think coming up, you'll see the seawall. No,
Is that
that
you
was
in that
different.
picture?
Wait, what happened?
That's under Diane 1 and 2 coming up. All right, so this is the seawall that we talked about. And I got some other pictures coming around. You'll see the whole neighborhood, everybody's got a seawall except this one. And what's happened, you see that fence, how it like dips down like at 15 degrees? You can't quite see in that picture, the previous picture. See how the end piece of the fence to the concrete, from the grass to the concrete, how it dips down?
Yeah.
That's how much it's settling down. There's cracks going through there.
Not fair.
There's cracks on the concrete path by their houses going through, so everything's settled down. We've got to go find a way, and I don't know if it's the same resiliency crew that was here earlier today, but to find a way to get those seawalls. When you have a seawall built at any point in time, you've got to go restructure that seawall back in.
I thought we had a rule for that.
We did, but it didn't, that was the intent. That we put a seawall ordinance in. My intent was to go solve this problem. The seawall ordinance we put in place did not do that. And I want to go take a look at it, go wherever we got to go to find out how others are doing it where they can make these seawalls stay in place.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so the seawall ordinance that you adopted, which was patterned after Hernando counties, requires them to maintain a seawall. In this particular case, the seawall had been deemed to have gone back to the natural condition. And so it doesn't, you have no ordinance that requires a seawall to be put in on all properties. And this one code had already declared to be back to its original conditions.
Well,
There is we could try a different type of ordinance, but the maintenance ordinance which you adopted wouldn't apply in this situation.
Because, and like I said, so we tried something, we thought it was going to work, it didn't work, and this was the problem I was trying to address. I want to go back and try again, find some other way to make this happen. Because what will happen with this one here, when the ones right beside it collapse, the other ones are going to collapse, and on it's going to go until people stand up. And literally, this is affecting this people's property values on both sides because everything else around it's collapsing. It's only a matter of before it affects the houses too. So yeah, if we could try again, that would be great.
May I ask the attorney a question? Are they responsible for the damage of the neighbor's seawall if it erodes because of their eroding property?
I'm not going to get into giving opinions about what adjacent private liability is.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
I have other people I can ask.
Okay. Next picture, the aquatic preserve picture. They did improve the language on the aquatic preserve that was up at House Bill 1061.
Did you see it? That just came in at 1?
They shrunk it. I just got a copy of it, and here's what I read. Now, when we heard at public comment tonight how this wasn't going to affect any canals, right? That's what we heard from the testimony. Here's what it says on it. It says, any publicly owned and maintained navigation channel or other public works project authorized by the United States Congress designed to improve or maintain commerce and navigation shall be deemed excluded from the aquatic preserves established under this product and under this act. I'm going to tell you what it's not going to cover from what I can see. And again, it's kind of where I drew my line way out to the side. I don't think it's going to cover the people of Westport that don't necessarily have a marked channel approved by the Army Corps. I don't think it's going to take care of the people by Driftwood. I know it's not going to take care of the Leisure Lane channel, a Leisure Beach channel that kind of jogs out to the side they want to straighten out. It's not going to take care of Cow Creek. It's not going to help some other areas that may not be permitted. So I'm still not comfortable with this. I did get this sent over to the people that are doing the study for us for the dredging up and down the coast. They haven't given us a report back, but I hope to get that, if not today, tomorrow, and then that'll kind of like lead us where we are. If you look at the map that's there, the yellow lines and the red lines, as far as the boundaries go, they take care of some channels, but they don't even take care of the south channel in Gulf Harbors, from what I can see there. It's not going to take care of the Sun-West dredge that goes in, if that's going to come forward. So all these things we're going to try to do, I think we're going to be inhibited. And again, if a seawall goes under, part of the provisions in here might even say that you have to let it stay in its natural state.
That's very interesting how they did the north channel, but not the south channel of
Right.
Gulf Harbors.
So that's, and kind of why I drew my line there. You know, we talked to with Alan Rose, who you saw is actually stepping down from the Restore Committee. But if we're going to go put some spoil islands, I don't know where they would go or whatever, but I don't want to limit ourselves to what we might want to do to improve our coast.
Stepping down from the.
He is. He's got so many projects. He keeps on sending emails over that he wants to talk about this and talk about that. So I said, look, just why don't you come off the committee and we'll just kind of like use you as an aide.
Oh.
And so with that, I'll get more information later, and I'll kind of like, I'll share that with staff as far as where to go, but I'm not sure what to do about the ordinances yet. I will put more feedback through it. That's all I have.
Well, on that note, if I could, I just thought it was interesting that some of the folks that showed up today, and the gentleman from the Pew Foundation, you know, I spoke to him on the phone a couple weeks ago, but you think that he would have taken the time to maybe meet with us one-on-one. My opinion, not here. It's kind of too late. It's just weird that it's coming after the fact when this is already up there and moving, and I just thought it was interesting.
So, actually, I want to cover one more thing that Commissioner Oakley touched on. We did have the parade yesterday at the Pasco Fair, and I've never made it past the second round. I finally made it past the second round.
Did that guy from the hospital retire, the ringer, you know, from the hospital in Zephyr Hills?
Oh, yes, he retired.
Oh,
Yeah.
then people have a chance.
He was raised on a dairy farm.
Yeah, that wasn't fair.
Well, it's funny. Now, Charlie Waller won it one year. He stepped down, and his daughter won it yesterday, too, so she did good.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get you a resolution for next meeting, Commissioner, to acknowledge that. Great job.
We'll make you prove your skills right here.
Well, we might be able to maybe we can get a cow to come in here and we can
No, we don't need
show
that.
us, you know? Just saying. Dan Biles.
Just one, Ralph sent out a strike all amendment that
Yeah.
the sponsor has sent out this morning. So if you can look at that and get him feedback.
Well,
That's-
that's the one I was talking about.
Okay.
Did-
So
did-
let's all take a
But
look
yeah,
at it.
we got it during the meeting, so I don't think anybody's had a chance to really
It's
read it,
very
digest
technical,
it.
so I don't know how to redo longitude and blah, blah. Someone else needs to do that, yeah.
Anyway, if
This guy.
Ralph needs feedback, because I think that's still moving down the tracks up there. So that's one thing. The other one is, you know, normally our wastewater and our utility operations guys are not working on things you normally want to take photos of, but they had to pull a deer out of the reservoir at Land O'Lakes plant a week or so ago. So here's some photos of that. and actually rescued it and got it out of the reservoir and got it out. So wanted to kind of show you the photos of that, kind of see the guys doing something that's not normal.
Took off, yeah.
So, yeah.
Survived.
Yeah, it survived. It ran off just fine. So,
Good stuff.
in fact, I think the last one is it disappearing. Yeah.
All right.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of wildlife in the area there. I mean, this is the first I've ever heard of it happening. Is there something we're going to do to avoid? Like, I'm assuming if they get in there, other animals do too. Is there any?
Like I said, that's the
I mean,
first
it's
time
a
I've heard of
huge
anything
reservoir.
happening in 3 years. So I haven't seen how tall that fence is, but
What's that in the background of that picture? Looks like Kogan grass,
Or neighborhoods? Yeah, I don't know.
which I'm going to bring up here when it comes back for my second round.
I don't know. We're, Commissioner Stark,
so that's all I have. And then we will.
or just texted me and said no second round for Commissioner.
I don't want my second round.
And so we will send out the agenda for the workshop here in a day or two. We will do the revenue projections first, and then we will have the planning discussion with respect to multifamily and mobility fees for multifamily, and then mobility fees for affordable housing. So.
Okay, and then do you want to bring up anything about the census committee? I know I have my two picks.
That's what was one on my.
You know what?
You know, I believe Andy has.
The
Commissioner
chair and I
Morris.
did not talk about that when I found out he was
Does everybody have their two
going
picks
to
for
bring.
the
I do.
census?
Yep.
Does everybody have your picks?
Yep.
Can you?
Don't we have to vote on them?
Yes, you do.
Let's-
I think
let's
you do.
vote.
So.
Want us to just give you the names and we can just vote?
We'll just say them out loud and.
Who's your census, two
Well,
census
I
folks?
only had one, but I hadn't got a second one yet. Dr. Stovall's my number one, so.
Okay, we need two, sir.
Okay, and I have Kelly Miller and James Captain, or whatever his title is, James Mallow.
Okay, and I've got Karen Swan and Monica Bayana. And then Andy, if you want to come up, or Commissioner Mariano, you want to say your two, and then we get Andy to talk about it.
Kathy, who do I have?
Jameth Rosa and Charles Anderson.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Chairman Moore, his two picks are Sandy Graves and Troy Stevenson.
Okay, so we just need a motion, then Commissioner Oakley, no pressure, but you're going to be able to get us another one.
We're working on it.
Can we approve it, including his pick that he hasn't actually picked yet?
Yeah,
Would that be the motion?
you can if you don't need to know, I mean,
Bless you.
if you all will consent to the commissioner putting anybody on,
Yes.
So moved.
Okay,
Yes.
Second.
all in favor?
I'm looking.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, Jeff.
we'll put together a formal resolution and bring it back for the next meeting, but until then, those are the picks that can start. I sent all of you an email on Friday when County Administrator Biles and I left the hearing in federal court. The judge on the Sierra Club versus
Oh.
Army Corps of Engineers and now Pasco County. We were granted intervener status several days before the hearing. We were able, outside counsel was able to argue Pasco County's case, why she should not grant the Sierra Club's motion for a temporary restraining order on the road. The Army Corps is represented by the Department of Justice, and they had a assistant U.S. attorney there as well from the Middle District. And first, the first positive, I mean, the temporary restraining order was not granted to this, and so we are still continuing to move forward with the construction of Ridge Road. But that's only the first step in probably a very long process that we'll be engaged in for this permit. But the judge was very, very thoughtful and basically seems to indicate that she is willing to give the Corps of Engineers great deference in their decision-making process. But there will be other hearings and we'll keep you abreast of what's happening.
Mr. Chairman, I actually forgot two things real
No,
quick.
no, I go second round first.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, I won't need a second round. But I just wanted to say we had our annual Valentine's Day ceremony last week, and it was my first time officiating as the clerk, so that was really fun. It was beautiful. Turned out to be a gorgeous day. I married, I can't say we, I married.
No rain?
20 people.
No rain?
Wow. No rain?
You
Oh.
didn't have any rain that day?
No,
or-
it was rained in the morning and then dried up for the ceremony, so it ended up being a
good.
beautiful
Okay,
day.
'cause I'd given permission for them to use
Inside of, yep.
inside the courthouse
Mhm.
if they needed to for rain.
So thank you for that, because we possibly needed to, but we didn't. It turned out beautiful. So 20 couples married, 2 renewed their vows, and they had just celebrated their 64th anniversary and came out. So that was pretty awesome. So I told all the couples, go talk to them about how to have a long and happy marriage. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we have a Passport Day coming up where our office is open on Saturdays, both in the government centers on the east side as well as on the west side. It is Saturday, March 14th. It is from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. It is to help families who want to get their passports, and they don't need to take time away from work or take their kids out of school to do that. And they also then can have their spring break to go on a vacation, right? Instead of coming into our office to get passports for the summer. So that's Saturday the 14th.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Stark.
Okay, so I thought that we were not going to be seeing the alcohol permit applications starting in the fall, that would be taken care of. So now we're in the winter, approaching spring. So where are we on being able to change that language so that those are just, it's a staff approval, unless a church objects?
I'll get you a specific answer, but I know that it's getting close to the finish line.
Okay.
I just don't know.
I was told
can't-
fall was the finish line, just,
I,
yeah.
Parks you're talking about?
No, so there's really no reason for us to hear the alcohol.
Oh, gotcha. The two we
We've
had
never
tonight.
denied them and we don't even discuss it unless there's an objection, with usually a church. And so those may still come to us, but otherwise they're going to be approved by staff. That was the decision we made a couple years ago.
I'll get you a timeline. I know it's imminent, but I'm not sure what that means, if that's a March or April.
So the other issue is, and I've asked Morgan to talk to someone about this, but I am getting an incredible amount of spam in my government email account, and I don't know if anyone else is doing that. And so it's just driving me nuts. And so it used to be that the spam was taken out, but I've got I've got political stuff from other states coming in. I don't know where it's coming from. So please, can someone look at my email and clean it up? Thank you. Driving at lunchtime down Starkey Boulevard, there is Kogan grass in our right-of-way on the right-hand side. And we are the worst spreaders of it, and I'd like someone to take care of that patch there on the right-hand side south of Alico Pass, because we're just going to spread it up and down the road. So it's on the right-hand side. And lastly, how many times have you guys heard me ask about some lights on Trouble Creek? Okay, I'm going to start saying it every freaking meeting. I would like someone to talk. I'd like there to be a couple of lights on more lights on Trouble Creek. It goes into some very dark places, and there are a lot of people out there. Someone was shot last year with drug dealing in one of those houses on there, and I just feel that sidewalk needs to have a little bit more lighting. Plus, it's safer to drive.
They're working on that, Dan. I know that after
once-
you brought it up, because part of it's my district and yours, and I agree with you. It's dark. We do
It's
need
only a
some lights.
few.
Yeah, we do need some
Yeah,
lights there,
okay.
because people are walking their school
Yeah.
right there and everything,
Yeah.
so. yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we know, can we get a time frame when maybe they
Because
can get
that
back
one
to her
was
on the
spam.
lights? Okay,
I mean,
thank you. Paula.
You'll get an answer as part of our normal answers that we send out to all of you.
Yeah, but I've asked a
Commissioner.
lot of times.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I know you asked twice that I heard. so.
So I've got some really good news about the channels we're going to try to work with Swift Mud Cooperative Funding with the City of Port Richey. We actually got a meeting scheduled for March 6th coming up. So I think we're making some progress there. And as far as Port Richey goes, in the MPO meeting we just had, we talked about the underpass. Now, let me give you the current status, which I didn't know then, but I know I've learned it since. The Senate has passed a $1 million allowance for the underpass funding to go under. The House doesn't have it through, but
In what pot of money?
somewhere in appropriations.
It'll be transportation.
But is it a general appropriation of transportation, or is it coming out of our own pot?
I may not have all the information you want
Okay.
today.
Guess so.
But what I do know is
important to
the
know.
House doesn't have any money in it. And the situation is right now, we need to get the feasibility study done immediately. After the meeting that we had at the MPO, I was able to talk with Secretary Gwynn. Representative Mariano actually called one of the, Mike Esposito or Bob Esposito, talk with him. I got a call back from the gentleman that was in the audience for FDOT, and he gave us some ideas about just marking the stuff off. Then I got a call back again saying the FDOT is not in the way of the feasibility study from here on through. We have the permission for them, all the lights are green for them to just go ahead, so we're not going to slow us down. I talked with Catches, one of the owners, one of the brothers. They're very willing to do a swap with all the right-of-way that we need in exchange for the land that they have on the other side. As part of, I think, an even trade out, we can give Port Richey the credit for the value of the land that's there compared to the land that we're getting from Catches and do a trade-off so that can be their in-kind as well. That will help the feasibility. That'll help the thing go forward. I know we're trying to make a meeting. Did anything change from the past couple hours?
No, not aware of it.
No, Todd? Anything happen with the city? They reached back to you any quicker?
Yes, trying to meet tomorrow morning.
Are they
Perfect.
putting any
Great
CRA
job.
money towards it, Port Richey?
Well, if Port Richey gives the land, I don't think they have any money other than they
They have
may
fire
not.
somebody and put that salary towards it.
Well,
since-
I'll tell you, frankly, if we just get them to put the land in to make the thing work, I mean, it's a great step forward. But Todd, great job setting that meeting up. So right now, they've got to move really fast because before session closes and before they do budget reconciliation, we need to get this done. So Todd, Terry, thank you for jumping into it. And Dan, if you're going to help along the way, fantastic to have that conversation because that's $1 million of funding that we don't want to pass up on. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for getting involved with that. I know I wasn't there last week, but it's needed. The cities, it's a great example of us working together. So I know I've seen like some Facebook posts where Commissioner Mariano going to be there. So it's good that you're being involved to help them from not only the consortium, but also from you being a commissioner. And it's the right thing for the region and quite frankly, the county for us to do something there with dredging to help commerce,
And I think tourism money could be able to go towards that. And I definitely think next year, because that's obviously not enough to build it, that we should look at economic development grant, not just go after transportation. I think it fits in other pots of money.
Well, we have to do more. We need more boat access. I mean, more dredging obviously is more commerce, all those good things. And I know we've talked to the city about trying to partner in one way, shape, or form. But maybe it's land for additional parking for boats, even though it's not ours, it's the city, but it's still ours. We're still together. So, and maybe with that thing with Eric Sojan, with the community college backing out and going to Newport Richey, maybe it's an opportunity for us to talk to them again about possibly, because there needs to be more access. And that is kind of the central gem of the county, if you will, so.
And I was wondering if even right where that property is, it butts right up to that canal. Maybe that is like a nice little slide right into it.
So, we do have money obviously set aside just for that, even though it would be the city, but I think it would be a good partnership. Obviously, we'd have to come to each one of you, but I think it'd be a good partnership for us to look at doing something there together. So I only have one thing. I'm going to head up to Tallahassee in the morning. I know we heard a couple folks comment about FWC and the fish and everything earlier, the grass. So I'm actually going up there. They're looking at changing some rules. I'm going to talk to them about scalloping again. I don't know that they're going to change anything, but I at least want them to hear from me, from my capacity, not only as a resident, but a commissioner and a charter captain, as well as, we kind of, it looks like they're going to close the season again for redfish, trout, and snook through 2021. I want to talk to them a little bit about that. They kind of included us. I don't want to bore you guys too much, but they included us with the northern counties with the trout when they reopen it, which the southern county, Pinellas, would have 3 trout per person. We would have 5, which I disagree with. I think we need to have 3 just like they would. It's only going to help us. We've got a lot more anyhow, we're a lot different than Hernando and Citrus and the other counties to the north of us. I mean, our population. Their trout limit's 5. But if you remember back in 2017, they closed us with the southern counties with the 3 fish species because of the red tide. So now they're trying to add us to the northern counties, which doesn't make sense. I mean, not to mention the pressure we have on the fishery compared to Hernando. It's not even comparable. So I got a letter that I'm going to submit to them, and then I'm going to talk. I think Ralph's going to meet me, and then I'm going to go meet with some of our state legislator folks to go over some things while I'm there. I might as well. So, but just so you know, so we are still fighting. I think it matters, and it does matter to tourism, to commerce, to everything. It would be nice to have the season open, but I totally get it because the fishery has negatively been affected by the red tide. So anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Round 3?
Mr. Chairman, do we have a report from Ralph on how we're doing legislatively?
He sent one out Friday. I mean, he sends them out every Friday.
Okay, so he's not calling in to the meetings or anything? Or
No, ma'am.
sending anything just
No,
to the
ma'am.
meeting? Okay, so.
No, he's
The
calling.
email's pretty detailed.
Yeah, it's.
I know my water project didn't make it, but
Mine is
a couple others,
hanging on.
Okay. Anything else? If that were adjourned, thank you. Good.